What just happened has made every scientist speechless. Last week, astronomers thought 3I Atlas was drifting harmlessly through deep space. Then, out of nowhere, its speed doubled. Not a little push, a surge, as if something invisible had grabbed it and yanked it forward. One observatory lost the signal entirely. Another picked it up, closer than it should be. And now the question no one wants to ask, what in the void is pushing this comet? Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Astronomer, a quiet space where the universe's loudest surprises become slow stories told under starlight. If these cosmic mysteries help you drift into curiosity, subscribing to the Sleepy Astronomer keeps this constellation of wonder alive so more dreamers can listen to the night breathe. Tonight we trace the strange momentum of 3I Atlas, a comet that shouldn't be accelerating, a traveler gaining power in a place with nothing to push it. Could sunlight alone explain it? Could sublimating ice mimic thrust? Or has 3I Atlas revealed something about motion itself that we've never seen before? Breathe slowly, because every kilometer it gains is a new question written into the dark. This is the Sleepy Astronomer. You drift into the quiet of space before the comet appears, letting your mind settle into the endless dark. Space feels soft, almost like a velvet sheet stretching beyond your vision. You notice that emptiness is not empty. It is a gentle cradle holding every particle, every photon, in suspended patience. Somewhere in that silence, a solitary traveler stirs, moving slowly, deliberately, carrying with it the ancient history of another star system. Its name, 3I/ATLAS, seems almost too simple for something that has journeyed farther than any human mind can fully imagine. The comet is small, yet it holds enormous stories. You imagine its surface, dark rock and frozen ices mingled with dust older than Earth itself. These are not just elements, they are time capsules. Each grain of dust has witnessed the birth of galaxies, the slow dance of stars, and the quiet formation of planets. You feel a kind of reverence for its patience, for the way it has floated for millions of years, unhurried, untouched by the urgency of life below. As your eyes trace its path, you notice the subtle glow reflecting sunlight from billions of kilometers away. Light reaches it slowly, carrying with it whispers of warmth and color that are almost imperceptible. This light is more than illumination. It is information. It tells you what the comet is made of, how it spins, how it has weathered cosmic radiation and interstellar winds. You begin to see that light is a gentle messenger, a soft bridge connecting distant space to your awareness. 3I/ATLAS moves with quiet purpose. Its motion is almost imperceptible, yet you sense the subtle hum of energy, the faint tug of gravity from the distant stars and planets. You imagine each tug as a whisper in a long conversation between celestial bodies. Gravity here is not violent. It is patient, careful, like a soft hand guiding the comet along a secret path. You realize that the motion in space is not about speed alone. It is about balance, the delicate choreography of countless invisible forces. The comet carries its own energy as well. From its frozen surface, faint gases begin to escape in a slow, gentle exhalation. You imagine these plumes as the comet breathing, a living, subtle rhythm in the quiet void. This outgassing is weak, almost negligible from your distant perspective, yet it nudges the comet ever so slightly. You feel the beauty in these small influences, understanding that even tiny gestures in space accumulate over time, guiding motion in ways that are profound, almost imperceptible but undeniable. As you continue to observe, you notice the first hints of acceleration. 3I/ATLAS is moving not merely along a path, but gaining subtle momentum, responding to the combined forces around it. You sense it as a quiet shift, a soft change in rhythm that invites your curiosity. The acceleration is not abrupt, it is patient, measured and natural. You feel a gentle thrill in understanding that even in the vast stillness of interstellar space, change is constant, unfolding in ways both predictable and mysterious. You think about the time it has taken for the comet to reach this moment. Every second of its journey, every year across the void, has been slow and unhurried. And yet, from this perspective, Its motion seems alive, almost intentional. You are struck by the paradox. Stillness and motion exist simultaneously. The comet teaches you to notice subtleties, to feel the gentle pulse of change without being rushed, to understand that speed is relative, and that even the quietest traveler carries the weight of countless years. The more you watch, the more you begin to notice patterns in its movement. Tiny variations in the path suggest interactions with unseen forces, subtle influences that guide without commanding. You imagine a river of space bending gently around invisible rocks, carrying the comet along a winding path. The analogy feels right. The comet floats like a leaf on a slow cosmic current, shifting speed as the river bends, sometimes faster, sometimes slower, yet always following a larger, unseen flow. You start to connect this understanding to your own life. Just as the comet responds to forces you cannot see, you too are shaped by currents beyond your immediate awareness. The gentle tug of circumstance, of unseen interactions, nudges you along your own path. There is comfort in this thought. It suggests that quiet guidance exists everywhere, even in the immense solitude of space, and that you are part of the same rhythm, the same soft dance that shapes the cosmos. Even the smallest dust particle around 3I/ATLAS seems significant now. Each fragment, flung from its surface over millennia, carries energy, history, and light. You think about the vast scale of distance and time, realizing that the comet's journey is not measured in hours or days, but in epochs. You feel a sense of awe at the persistence required to drift so far, and a gentle reassurance that the universe values continuity as much as it values action. Your mind settles deeper into the sensation of cosmic rhythm. You feel the interplay of light, gravity, and motion as a slow, meditative pulse, a quiet hum that you can almost hear if you focus. You imagine drifting beside 3I/ATLAS, weightless, carried by the invisible currents, watching ancient starlight bend around its body. There is no hurry, only the quiet passage of time and the gentle acceleration of a lone traveler, whose story you are only beginning to comprehend. As the comet continues to move, you notice that the acceleration is becoming slightly more perceptible, a soft, rhythmic change that suggests forces both near and far are guiding it. You sense that this is only the beginning of a long and mysterious journey, one that will unfold in subtle and surprising ways. There is a quiet invitation here, an unspoken question about the forces shaping the cosmos, waiting for you to follow them further. And so you linger in this moment of stillness and gentle motion, feeling the comet awaken fully to its path. You know that light, time, and gravity will continue their soft dialogue with this traveler. You take a slow, deep breath, letting the knowledge settle, the image of 3I/ATLAS's silent, accelerating journey, imprinting itself in your mind. And in that calm, you feel the anticipation of what comes next, the delicate, almost imperceptible ways the universe guides its travelers, and how the comet's path may whisper secrets about motion itself, waiting for you to notice. The comet moves forward, and you realize that the quiet stirrings of acceleration are only the first hint of a story that will unfold across the dark expanse, leading you gently to the next discovery of light and measurement, where the unseen forces of space begin to reveal themselves more fully. You settle into the quiet awareness of Earth, where distant telescopes and instruments reach toward the sky. From your perspective, each device is a patient listener, stretching across the world and beyond, attuned to the faintest signals. You imagine their lenses and sensors as gentle hands, tracing the comet's path without touching it, observing without disturbance. Their work is a careful choreography of precision, a dialogue conducted across space where the language is light and motion. You notice the way scientists use photons as messengers. Every particle of light from 3I/ATLAS carries information, hints about its surface, its motion, the composition of the dust and ice it sheds. Light travels vast distances, sometimes years, and when it finally reaches an Earth-based detector, it is like a whispered story from the distant past. You feel the beauty in this patient communication, where time itself becomes part of the conversation. The instruments themselves are remarkable. Telescopes stretch their long lenses toward the sky, each carefully aligned to capture faint glimmers. Detectors record shifts in brightness, subtle changes in position, and the tiniest wobbles that suggest motion or rotation. You imagine a comet as small as a pebble, drifting across an expanse so vast that without these tools, its presence would be invisible. Yet, through careful observation, the universe offers itself to understanding layer by layer, like a soft unfolding of petals. You focus on the concept of measuring something so far away. It is almost paradoxical. You cannot touch the comet, cannot hold it, and yet you can know its speed, its direction, and even its acceleration. This knowledge is stitched together from light, from tiny gravitational influences, from subtle radiation pressure. You recognize that measurement in this context is not intrusion. It is attention. It is listening to the rhythm of the cosmos without disturbing it, noting patterns and allowing the story to emerge naturally. Every calculation is a meditation in itself. Astronomers measure angles with extreme precision, noting minute differences that over vast distances correspond to thousands of kilometers of movement. You imagine each tiny adjustment as a slow brushstroke on a canvas of darkness, revealing the comet's trajectory. It is gentle, rhythmic work, repeated observations, careful corrections, patient refinement. The process mirrors the calm unfolding of a story, where each page offers a subtle new insight, never rushed, always considered. You think about the tools that extend human senses. From radar bounces to photometry, every method is designed to translate invisible signals into understanding. You imagine radar waves as soft pulses sent across the void, bouncing back with information about distance and velocity. Photons from distant sunlight scatter, revealing composition and surface texture. You feel the intimacy of these measurements, even at a distance of billions of kilometers. The comet communicates in light, and you are listening. You imagine sitting beside an astronomer, watching their screen glow with data points, graphs, and predictions. Each number represents a careful observation, a conversation with the comet itself. You feel the patience required, hours of watching, recording, and comparing. Every data point is a gentle note in a melody that will eventually reveal the comet's motion. You realize that science here is not forceful. It is a soft, deliberate inquiry, as soothing and precise as the rhythm of your own breath. Even uncertainty has its own calmness. Instruments carry small errors, tiny ambiguities that can be refined over time. You notice that scientists treat uncertainty not as a problem but as a guide, a quiet reminder that the universe cannot be rushed. Each measurement contributes to a growing pattern, and slowly over months and years, the comet's acceleration and trajectory become clearer. You sense the comfort in this process. Truth unfolds patiently like the soft rise of dawn. You begin to understand how distance magnifies subtle effects. Light from a comet can take hours, days, or even years to reach Earth-based detectors, yet even the faintest signal matters. You imagine the photons as tiny travelers, carrying stories across space, bringing secrets from the comet's surface, its rotation, its slow release of gas and dust. Each particle is a messenger, a bridge connecting your awareness with the motions of something utterly distant yet intimately present in its influence on your perception. Tracking the comet's acceleration requires observing changes in position over time. You imagine the comet's path traced in the mind as a gentle arc across the sky, a curve shaped by invisible forces. You notice the subtle deviations, the tiny shifts that indicate acceleration, hints that the comet is moving faster than expected. These changes are not abrupt. They are whispers of influence, almost imperceptible, yet profound when you recognize them. It is as if the universe itself is nudging, inviting observation and reflection. The mathematical language behind these measurements is elegant and soft. You imagine formulas and calculations not as cold symbols, but as tools that translate the gentle rhythm of space into human understanding. Each equation captures patterns, describes motion, and predicts behavior. The beauty is in the connection, abstraction becoming comprehension, subtle shifts becoming knowledge, distance becoming intimacy. You feel your mind relaxing into the logic, your thoughts slowing as you follow the gentle cadence of the comet's journey. You sense the cooperation between Earth and space, a delicate partnership in observation. Spacecraft, telescopes, and ground-based observatories work in harmony, translating signals across vast distances. You imagine data streams flowing like soft rivers, combining to reveal a clearer picture of the comet's motion. The process is meditative, patient collection, slow refinement, a calm unfolding of insight that mirrors the gentle rhythm of cosmic time itself. You notice that measurement is a way of connecting, a bridge between human perception and distant reality. The comet, unaware of your attention, continues its journey, yet the universe allows you to witness it. You feel a subtle kinship with both observer and observed, a gentle reminder that awareness itself is a soft, meditative act, capable of discovering order and pattern in the vast, empty expanse. As you follow the comet's light, you begin to sense the delicate interplay of forces that the next chapter will explore. The tiny variations in motion, the gentle nudges from invisible pressures, the soft whispers of gravity, all of these forces are waiting for your attention. You feel anticipation not as urgency, but as calm curiosity, a quiet invitation to explore the next layer of the story, to understand the invisible guidance that shapes 3I/ATLAS's accelerating journey. And so you linger in this space of observation, feeling the rhythm of measurement, the soft communication of light, and the patient unfolding of knowledge. The comet moves forward, and you understand that to see it is to listen, to measure is to connect, and the next step is to sense the hidden forces that gently push it along, guiding the journey in ways subtle yet profound, softly leading you toward the next revelation. You let yourself follow 3I/ATLAS deeper into the vast stretches between the stars, where darkness is not merely the absence of light, but a gentle expanse, soft and embracing. You feel as though the comet carries you with it, drifting in quiet tandem, weightless and patient. Each moment stretches, measured not by clocks, but by the gentle pulse of cosmic distance. Here, in this infinite black, you sense that emptiness is a presence, a space that holds everything quietly and without judgment. Darkness in space is never truly empty. You imagine it as a vast canvas, a deep velvet upon which starlight and motion trace their subtle patterns. Tiny currents of gas drift silently, and distant stars scatter faint light, like whispers cast across the void. You notice the slow shimmer of interstellar dust, drifting over centuries touched by photons that have traveled across thousands of light years. The comet moves among them, weaving gently through this soft, invisible lattice. As you observe, you begin to sense motion itself. The comet is not simply floating, it is following a trajectory shaped by forces both near and far. Gravity bends its path like a subtle hand guiding a river, while the remnants of interstellar winds brush softly against its frozen surface. You feel the rhythm of its journey as a gentle undulation, a slow wave in the cosmic ocean. Even in darkness, motion creates presence, a soft declaration that life, of a sort, persists across time and space. The vastness can feel overwhelming, yet there is comfort here. The emptiness is patient. It allows the comet to move freely, unobstructed by turbulence, untouched by hurry. You feel your thoughts slow, matching the cadence of the comet's path. The rhythm is hypnotic, a gentle ebb that encourages quiet reflection. You realize that in such immense spaces, observation itself becomes a form of intimacy, a way to connect to phenomena far beyond immediate reach. You notice the faint glimmers of distant stars scattered across the canvas of darkness. Each star is a quiet companion, offering light, warmth, and gravity, even from immense distances. The comet passes between these points of illumination, its icy surface reflecting subtle traces of their glow. You imagine these faint reflections as messages, telling you stories of distant suns and planets, of histories that stretch across billions of years. The comet carries these stories forward, letting them drift silently toward whatever future may receive them. You think about time in this expanse. Without a nearby reference, time seems to stretch and fold, measured by light and motion rather than clocks. Each second is a meditation, a soft observation of incremental change. The comet's progress becomes a story of accumulation. Tiny shifts in position, small changes in speed, the gentle release of gas from its surface. You realize that movement across such vast distances requires patience, and that acceleration, even when subtle, is profoundly meaningful. Darkness here has texture. You imagine it as layers, like soft fabrics of differing density, each subtly influencing the comet's path. Some areas are slightly denser with interstellar dust, some nearly empty, some gently heated by distant stars. The comet navigates this invisible landscape without knowing it, responding to the physical laws that are consistent yet delicate. You feel a meditative harmony in this interaction, an invisible conversation between matter and void, a gentle dance that unfolds silently over millennia. As you drift, you notice how isolation emphasizes the comet's presence. In the immense black, even the smallest particles released from its surface become noticeable. Dust and ice trace a faint trail, imperceptible in the grand expanse yet significant in context. You reflect on how the quietest actions can leave lasting impressions, how subtle change over time accumulates into observable patterns. The universe encourages patience, showing you that the smallest interactions matter, even when unseen for vast stretches of space. You imagine the comet itself as a solitary traveller with purpose, responding to the gentle contours of its surroundings. Its trajectory is not random, it is shaped by gravity, inertia, and the faint forces of gas release. Each movement is deliberate in its own cosmic logic. You feel a quiet kinship with this path, slow, measured, guided by forces that cannot be seen directly but are felt through observation. You realize that understanding is a form of participation, a way to move alongside something so distant and so ancient. The darkness also allows you to sense contrast, motion against stillness, matter against emptiness, light against shadow. You imagine watching the comet arc slowly past invisible gravitational curves, its speed and rotation whispering stories about forces you cannot see directly. You notice that even in complete absence of immediate stimuli, there is texture, rhythm, and meaning. Each subtle change in position is a note in a quiet symphony, a soundless melody written in the language of motion. You start to feel the delicate tug of interstellar currents. Though the comet is tiny compared to stars, even the softest push from gas clouds, magnetic fields, and radiation pressure influences its journey. You imagine these forces as gentle hands, guiding it without haste or aggression, soft fingers tracing invisible lines across the fabric of space. You sense that acceleration can emerge from such quiet influences, a gradual shift that transforms the path imperceptibly yet inevitably. The interplay between darkness and motion is hypnotic. You notice that the farther you drift, the more your mind synchronizes with the comet's rhythm. You feel the quiet expansion of time, the slow weaving of light and gravity, the subtle influence of invisible matter. Observation here is a form of meditation. Patience, presence, and gentle attention combine, letting you enter the narrative of the comet without interference, allowing the vast silence to enfold you. And so you follow 3I/ATLAS through this slow, quiet expanse, drifting alongside its silent journey. Each passing second is a soft acknowledgement of motion, of history, of the patient unfolding of cosmic forces. The darkness does not frighten, it comforts, providing a canvas where light, matter, and time reveal their subtle patterns. You understand that the next layer of the story lies in the forces that you cannot see directly, the nudges, the pulls, the gentle influences shaping acceleration itself, waiting for your attention in the next chapter. You breathe slowly, letting your mind settle into this quiet cadence, feeling the comet's journey as if it were your own. You sense that the hidden currents of space are poised to reveal themselves, soft yet powerful, guiding the lone traveller and inviting you to follow into the invisible, where measurement and motion meet in a gentle dialogue, carrying the story forward. You drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, noticing for the first time the subtle changes in its pace. The comet has moved for millennia through silent space, yet now there is a quiet increase, a soft hum of acceleration that is almost imperceptible. It does not rush, it does not surge. Instead, the motion flows gradually, like the rising tide brushing against the unseen shorelines of space. You sense it more with intuition than observation, a gentle awareness that time and distance are intertwined with movement in a delicate balance. The velocity of the comet is not a number you can feel in the conventional sense. Instead, it is a rhythm, a pulse woven into the fabric of space itself. You imagine a slow drum beat, each subtle shift of position, a percussion echo, spaced out over billions of kilometers. These increments are so small that without precise instruments on Earth, they might go unnoticed. Yet you can sense them in the mind's eye, a soft vibration resonating through thought, reminding you that motion exists even where silence reigns. You consider how distance magnifies perception. Across such vast expanses, a tiny change in position over a single day can translate into thousands of kilometers traveled. You imagine tracking the comet's journey as a series of gentle steps, each almost imperceptible, yet each contributing to a broader arc of motion. You feel the quiet power in cumulative change, understanding that acceleration does not require dramatic leaps. It can emerge as a subtle, persistent rhythm like water slowly carving a canyon over centuries. The comet's surface reflects light from distant stars, and you notice how the brightness shifts subtly with its increasing speed. Even these shifts are gentle, like candlelight flickering across a quiet room. You imagine the ice and dust responding to solar radiation, tiny molecules pushing outward and nudging the comet along. These small forces, seemingly insignificant on their own, accumulate over time, becoming a soft but undeniable driver of motion. The universe, you realize, teaches you patience. Acceleration is often quiet, built from many imperceptible influences rather than a single dramatic push. You think about the relationship between motion and time. In the emptiness of space, time stretches and folds, influenced by the comet's speed, the gravity of nearby stars, and the vast distances separating celestial objects. Acceleration alters the rhythm subtly, compressing some moments and extending others. You feel your mind drifting alongside these variations, attuning to the quiet fluctuations that reveal the deeper nature of movement. The experience is both contemplative and meditative, a gentle immersion into the mechanics of existence itself. Gravity, too, leaves its mark. You imagine the comet passing by distant stars and planets, feeling their invisible tug like a slow hand drawing arcs in space. These interactions are soft, subtle, yet they guide the comet's path, adjusting speed and trajectory with precision. You sense the elegance in this cosmic interplay, forces acting without friction, without noise, without urgency, shaping motion in a calm and measured manner. There is artistry in the mathematics of movement, a rhythm that resonates through your awareness. You visualize the comet's acceleration as a slow, expanding spiral. Each tiny increment of speed stretches the arc of its journey, bending it gently against the currents of interstellar space. You imagine following this path from a distance, tracing invisible lines in the dark, feeling the harmony of forces that conspire to guide it. Even in the absence of sound, the motion carries a resonance, a quiet energy that fills the void with presence. You begin to understand that speed is not merely a number, but a story unfolding over time and space. Even the smallest particles around the comet seem to participate in this silent dance. Dust and gas, released over millennia, drift alongside it, moving according to the same physical principles. You imagine these particles as tiny companions, their slow motion accentuating the comet's rhythm. They are witnesses to acceleration, markers of subtle influence, and reminders that even in the vast emptiness of space, every action carries significance. You feel your mind slow further, settling into the cadence of this quiet momentum. You notice that acceleration can be deceptive. The comet's increase in speed is subtle, nearly imperceptible to a casual observer. Yet over months and years, the effects accumulate into discernible motion, a change in trajectory that can only be understood through patient observation. You reflect on the lessons this offers. Change often occurs quietly, gradually, with profound consequences that may only be revealed through long attention. The universe demonstrates that small nudges can lead to large transformations without urgency or force. You consider the idea of energy. The comet moves through space with immense kinetic energy, a vast quantity invisible yet tangible in its consequences. You imagine the energy as a quiet river flowing through the comet, guiding its motion, shaping its interactions with surrounding forces. You feel the calm elegance in this. Energy as a presence, not a disruptive force, but a companion to movement, coexisting with inertia, gravity, and the gentle push of gas released from the comet's icy surface. The comet also illustrates the interconnectedness of motion. Its path is influenced by forces light years away, by radiation that has traveled across centuries, and by particles released long ago that continue to drift nearby. You sense that acceleration is not merely local, it is the sum of countless influences, woven together in quiet harmony. You feel a sense of awe at the subtlety of these interactions, appreciating that even distant, invisible effects can guide motion in profound and measurable ways. As you continue to drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, you notice how observation transforms understanding. Instruments on Earth detect these subtle increases in speed, turning abstract forces into measurable phenomena. You imagine the quiet thrill of discovery, where careful attention reveals the imperceptible and understanding emerges without urgency. The act of observing becomes an extension of the cosmos itself, a way of participating in the slow, patient unfolding of motion. The silence around you emphasizes the comet's quiet momentum. Each shift in speed, each subtle acceleration, resonates in your mind like a gentle heartbeat. You feel the rhythm of cosmic forces, the interplay of gravity, radiation, and inertia as a delicate symphony. The comet is not rushing. It is moving with purpose and balance, teaching you to notice the smallest changes and to appreciate the quiet patience required for motion to reveal its full story. And as you settle further into this awareness, you recognize that acceleration is only part of a larger, unseen narrative. Forces beyond immediate perception, tiny pressures, distant gravitational tugs, the slow release of gases, will continue to shape the comet's journey. You feel the anticipation of discovering these hidden influences, understanding that the next chapter will guide you gently into the invisible forces at play, revealing the subtle nudges that make the silent increase in speed possible. You exhale slowly, letting your awareness rest in this rhythm, feeling the comet's motion as a quiet teacher. Its journey, marked by gentle acceleration and careful balance, invites reflection on patience, subtlety, and the beauty of movement without hurry. And you sense that the next revelation, the hidden, unseen forces guiding its path, awaits just beyond your current perception, a quiet secret of space ready to unfold. You drift quietly with 3I/ATLAS, noticing the soft shimmer of light along its icy surface. Light here is not harsh or abrupt. It is gentle, a delicate presence that travels across the emptiness of space. You imagine each photon as a tiny messenger, carrying whispers from the distant sun and countless other stars. These photons have traveled for years, some for decades, before touching the comet, and then continuing their journey to your instruments on Earth. You feel a quiet reverence for this silent communication, a connection formed entirely through light. Light illuminates the comet not only for observation, but also as a subtle influencer. The photons exert pressure, almost imperceptible, pushing ever so slightly against the surface, encouraging tiny shifts in motion. You notice that even such minuscule effects matter over long distances, adding imperceptible nudges that shape trajectory and speed. There is elegance in this quiet influence, energy traveling across billions of kilometers, gentle but persistent, guiding the path of a solitary traveler in space. You imagine the comet's surface reflecting starlight like frost on a dark pond. Each reflection tells a story. Ice-rich regions scatter light differently than rocky or dusty areas, revealing texture, composition, and history. Light becomes a painter, tracing subtle features in shadow and brilliance. You feel as though you could reach out with your mind, tracing the contours of the comet through these delicate illuminations. Even the smallest glimmers become meaningful when interpreted with patience and attention. As you follow the comet, you sense the rhythmic flow of photons reaching your mind's eye. Each photon carries information encoded in its color, brightness, and arrival time. You think about how astronomers translate these properties into understanding chemical composition, rotational period, and even minute outgassing events. The process feels like decoding a soft language, one that speaks without sound, conveying the story of 3I/ATLAS across unfathomable distances. You feel a quiet delight in this indirect conversation with the cosmos. You consider how light folds time. Photons from the sun reach the comet in a little over 8 minutes, while photons from distant stars may take millennia. Every observation is a glimpse into both present and past, a meditation on the continuum of time. You notice that observing light is never instantaneous. It is always a gentle bridging of moments, a soft reminder that the universe operates on scales larger than the mind can hold. Yet, paradoxically, these small glimpses provide understanding, making the vast cosmos feel intimate and knowable. You notice how subtle changes in illumination reveal the comet's rotation. Shadows lengthen and shorten, revealing a slow spin. You imagine tracing these rotations with your fingertips, feeling the comet turn through space, one silent revolution at a time. Light allows you to measure movement without touching, to sense rhythm without disturbance. There is a meditative quality to this, understanding through perception, patience, and careful attention, as if the universe itself is inviting you to slow down and notice what is easily overlooked. Even the faintest glows contain meaning. Dust particles drifting from the comet scatter sunlight in soft halos, hinting at recent activity on the surface. You imagine these halos as echoes of motion, captured and illuminated by photons before drifting into deeper darkness. Each speck of light is a small chapter, a gentle note in the narrative of 3I/ATLAS, waiting for your attention to be understood. You feel the rhythm of these signals as a quiet pulse beneath the surface of observation. You begin to appreciate the patience required to track light over vast distances. Instruments on Earth capture faint photons, sometimes only a few at a time, building patterns slowly over hours, days, or weeks. Each photon is a quiet revelation, contributing incrementally to a growing understanding. You feel comforted by this gentle accumulation, the soft unfolding of knowledge that mirrors the gradual shifts of the comet itself. Observation becomes a meditation, a dialogue conducted across space and time, without hurry or urgency. You notice that light also hints at hidden forces. Variations in brightness may suggest outgassing events, or changes in orientation, revealing subtle accelerations that are otherwise invisible. You imagine these fluctuations as gentle whispers, each carrying insight into the comet's state and trajectory. Through light, the invisible becomes perceptible. You sense that the universe communicates its secrets slowly, softly, rewarding patience with understanding and teaching that observation is itself an act of quiet connection. You reflect on how light connects all points of the cosmos. Photons traveling from distant stars intersect with the comet's path, merging with reflections from its surface, creating an intricate pattern of illumination. You feel a sense of intimacy with the universe. Even across vast distances, interactions unfold in a coherent, measurable way. Light is both a medium and a messenger, conveying energy, movement, and information, binding observer and observed in a quiet, enduring dialogue. You consider the delicate interplay between illumination and motion. As the comet accelerates, light subtly shifts, tracing patterns that reveal the path and speed of travel. You feel as if you are floating alongside, tracing invisible lines drawn by photons, noting where light bends, fades, or intensifies. These gentle shifts allow understanding without interference, a meditation on presence, perception, and the slow accumulation of insight. Light becomes not just illumination, but a language through which the cosmos speaks. You notice that each observation requires integration over time. Single photons are too faint to convey complete meaning, but when collected, analyzed, and compared, they create a coherent story. You sense a rhythm here: observation, reflection, accumulation, understanding. The universe teaches through repetition, through small, consistent signals, allowing the mind to settle into patterns of comprehension as naturally as your body settles into the rhythm of breath. And so you follow the comet with awareness tuned to light itself, noticing the gentle interplay of photons and matter, time and motion. Each reflection, each scattered particle is a whisper, carrying stories of composition, movement, and history. You feel the intimacy of this connection, the sense that light can bridge vast distances and fold time into a comprehensible, gentle narrative. As the comet continues to drift and accelerate, you sense that light is only the beginning. Beyond illumination, unseen forces, gravity, radiation pressure, and subtle interactions with interstellar matter are guiding its journey. You exhale slowly, letting the soft warmth of understanding settle. The story of motion continues, ready to unfold in the next chapter, where invisible forces reveal themselves quietly, shaping the comet's path and inviting you to notice the hidden rhythms of acceleration. You drift with 3I/8LAS, noticing forces that are unseen yet unmistakably present. Gravity is not sudden or loud, it is a whisper, a gentle tug that guides motion with quiet authority. You imagine the comet moving through an invisible web, threads of force stretching across space, bending its path with patience rather than urgency. Each pull is soft, measured, and precise, a delicate suggestion shaping trajectories without resistance. You feel a sense of wonder. Even emptiness carries influence, and even the smallest motions are guided by invisible hands. You consider the sources of these whispers. Distant stars, massive yet far away, exert subtle tugs. Planets and smaller bodies contribute their own quiet nudges. The combined effect is intricate, almost imperceptible in a single moment, yet profound over time. You imagine gravity as a soft conductor of an orchestra, coaxing each particle and object to move in harmony with the rest of the universe. The comet is not alone, it is part of a network of influence traveling along pathways etched by forces beyond immediate perception. The comet's motion becomes a meditation in itself. You notice that acceleration emerges naturally from these gentle tugs, tiny shifts accumulating into measurable change. You imagine tracing these arcs, following the invisible lines, feeling the soft tension of attraction across vast distances. Each movement is purposeful yet effortless, a testimony to the quiet precision of nature's design. You sense that understanding gravity is not about force alone, but about listening, noticing, and allowing subtlety to reveal its rhythm. You watch how the comet curves around an unseen gravitational source, bending slowly, deliberately without haste. Its path is not straight, nor is it chaotic. It is a silent dialogue between mass and motion. You feel the elegance in this gentle interplay, understanding that even in deep space where light and matter are sparse, every object interacts with every other through the quiet insistence of gravity. These whispers are patient, persistent, and timeless, shaping movement over millennia. The comet's acceleration becomes clearer as you follow its path. Tiny changes in speed are amplified by distance, revealing the cumulative effect of countless gravitational nudges. You imagine a feather drifting through a gentle wind, each current imperceptible on its own but guiding motion over time. The comet's journey is similar. Each soft pull, each invisible influence adds to a subtle but undeniable rhythm. You sense that speed and direction are inseparable, that every turn carries the history of countless invisible interactions. You begin to reflect on the concept of mass. Gravity depends on it, yet mass is not merely weight. It is a measure of presence, of influence in the cosmos. The comet's mass allows it to respond to distant tugs, to curve in accordance with unseen forces. You imagine mass as a quiet anchor, a participant in the cosmic dialogue, shaping and responding simultaneously. Understanding this interplay brings a sense of calm. Motion is not random, nor is it forceful, but harmonious, guided by the quiet balance of presence and pull. You notice the distances involved. Light years separate the comet from massive stars, yet their influence is tangible. You imagine space as a soft web of tension, where each thread stretches and bends imperceptibly, shaping motion across unimaginable scales. Gravity acts without friction, without pressure, without sound, and yet it carries authority. You feel a gentle awe for the patience and precision inherent in these interactions, a reassurance that even in emptiness guidance exists, delicate yet profound. Even tiny bodies contribute their whispers. Dust clouds, asteroids, and minor planets exert soft tugs that accumulate over time. You imagine the comet weaving through this intricate network, its path influenced by countless subtle forces. Each encounter is minor, almost invisible, yet the sum of these interactions shapes the trajectory in meaningful ways. You feel that the universe is both vast and intimate, each motion connected to countless others, like threads in an invisible tapestry. You reflect on how gravity interacts with light. Photons from nearby stars are bent, their paths shifted by the same invisible tugs that guide the comet. You notice how this subtle curvature provides insight into the distribution of mass across space. Observation and motion are intertwined. Light traces gravity, gravity guides motion, and the comet moves silently in response. You sense that the universe communicates through patterns, weaving together distance, force, and illumination into a coherent, gentle narrative. The comet's journey is not linear. Curves emerge gradually, arcs that reveal gravitational influence long before they are obvious. You imagine these arcs as soft brushstrokes on the canvas of space, each line tracing a hidden conversation between masses. You feel the meditative rhythm of this motion, a quiet unfolding of understanding that mirrors the gentle patterns in your own thoughts. Gravity teaches patience. Movement is subtle, change is gradual, and observation is the key to perceiving the invisible. You notice that even in silence, influence persists. The comet responds to multiple tugs simultaneously, balancing each one into a coherent path. You imagine a quiet negotiation between forces, each exerting gentle insistence, and the comet adapting seamlessly. This interplay is slow, deliberate, and profoundly elegant, teaching you that complexity does not require noise. Even in vast emptiness, harmony exists, orchestrated by soft, persistent forces. You consider that observation itself is part of the rhythm. By following the comet, by noting small accelerations and curves, you participate in a subtle dance of comprehension. Awareness becomes a companion to motion, allowing insight into patterns otherwise hidden. You feel a deep sense of connection. The comet moves through the universe guided by quiet forces, and you move with it, guided by curiosity and attention, merging observation with presence in a meditative awareness. As you drift further, you notice the soft accumulation of influence over time. Small tugs from distant stars and interstellar clouds slowly reshape the comet's path. You realize that even imperceptible forces become meaningful over long distances, that patience reveals patterns invisible in an immediate observation. You feel comfort in this lesson. Change is subtle, guidance is persistent, and awareness allows connection with forces that cannot be seen directly. And so you follow 3I/ATLAS as it moves through a network of gravitational whispers, each pull quiet yet shaping, each curve a testament to patient influence. You sense that the comet's journey is guided by these hidden hands, invisible yet profoundly present, leading you to wonder what other gentle forces, yet unseen, will reveal themselves as its acceleration continues. The story of motion stretches onward, a quiet invitation to explore the next layer of cosmic guidance. You drift closer to 3I/ATLAS, letting your mind glide over its surface. The comet is not solid in the way a planet is. It is fragile, porous, and delicate like a memory carved from ice and stone. You imagine the textures under your fingertips, crystalline frost interrupted by jagged dark rocks, dust caught in tiny grooves, fragments that have survived countless years of cosmic wandering. Each piece tells a story, a fragment of the early solar system preserved in frozen quiet. You sense that the comet carries a history older than human imagination. Its ice formed in a cold, distant part of space, crystallizing slowly under the faint glow of ancient stars. Dust collected gradually, each particle a tiny traveler from long-forgotten corners of the galaxy. You feel the weight of time in these textures, the slow accumulation of matter and memory over eons. Touching it with your mind, you sense not just surface, but epochs, the quiet patience of formation written in subtle patterns. The surface is mottled, dark in places, reflecting little light, while other areas glint with frozen brilliance. You imagine that each dark patch is rock or carbon-rich material, remnants of ancient collisions preserved in silence. You sense that even the seemingly solid parts are porous, fragile under the soft pressure of observation. The comet is both enduring and ephemeral, a paradox of strength and vulnerability moving through the void. You notice tiny cracks running across the surface, subtle fractures that trace the comet's journey. These fissures hint at internal processes, expansion and contraction as temperatures shift, sublimation of ices into gas, gentle outgassing that nudges the comet along its path. You imagine these processes like the breath of the comet itself, small exhalations shaping motion, texture, and even destiny. Each fissure is a line in the quiet story of transformation, written slowly over millennia. Dust coats some regions, fine grains drifting along the surface like soft snow. You imagine it as a layer of accumulated memory, particles from ancient impacts, or remnants of other celestial wanderers. This dust softens the appearance of rock and ice, blending contrasts into a gentle, tactile narrative. You sense that the comet is a mosaic, each fragment meaningful, each layer an echo of processes that unfolded long before Earth existed. You consider the composition of ice. Water, carbon dioxide, ammonia, and other frozen compounds exist in quiet harmony, forming crystalline structures that can refract light in subtle ways. You imagine tracing these lattices, noticing how they sparkle when sunlight strikes at the right angle. Even though motion is vast and space is empty, these crystals reflect a quiet intricacy, a design without intention but full of beauty. You feel a soft reverence for the simple complexity of frozen matter. Rocks embedded within the ice tell their own story. You imagine them as relics of collisions, fragments of larger bodies shattered long ago. Some are smooth, worn by prior impacts. Others are jagged, still raw from cosmic stress. They carry the memory of force and change preserved in silence. You sense that the comet is not just frozen water, but a repository of experience, a tiny archive of cosmic events patiently moving through time. You notice that the comet's shape is irregular, lumpy and asymmetric. It is not a perfect sphere, but a collection of forms bound loosely by gravity and cohesion. You imagine rotating it in your mind, seeing the dips, ridges, and protrusions. Each contour has the meaning. Some regions will warm first as the comet approaches the sun, others remain in shadow untouched. You feel that the shape itself guides the comet's interactions with light and heat, a subtle choreography dictated by matter, time, and distance. Even the smallest features are significant. Tiny pits, grooves, or ridges affect how ice sublimates, how dust drifts, and how plumes of gas escape. You imagine the comet exhaling softly into space, its fragile structure influencing the direction and intensity of these plumes. The interplay of ice and stone becomes a quiet symphony of cause and effect, a reminder that even in silence, small details shape movement and change. You feel connected to these processes, sensing that observation is participation, not interference. The comet is a relic of beginnings. It contains the materials from which planets were born, preserved in near pristine condition. You imagine holding in your mind a fragment of this ancient matter, tracing the chemical signatures of early solar system chemistry, carbon compounds, organics, and icy mixtures that hint at the building blocks of life. You sense that the comet is a messenger from time itself, bringing distant epochs into your awareness without hurry, without words. You notice that its fragile structure also explains its unpredictability. Slight outgassing, shifts in mass, or small collisions can alter its path. Its texture, composition, and irregular shape are all intimately linked to its motion. You feel a soft curiosity. The comet is both solid and vulnerable, a reminder that even the smallest irregularities can have profound effects over long distances and time. Observing it is a meditation on patience, attention, and humility. As you drift alongside, you sense the comet's quiet vitality. Despite its seeming stillness, it is active in ways imperceptible, microfractures adjusting, ice slowly sublimating, dust shifting with subtle currents. You imagine running your hand along the surface in thought, feeling these minute movements as the echo of eons. The comet is alive in its own way, not with consciousness, but with process, change, and responsiveness, carrying ancient secrets through the void. And as you linger in this awareness, you realize that 3I/ATLAS is more than a collection of ice and stone. It is a bridge between past and present, a vessel of memory drifting silently through space. Its fragile body carries the story of the early solar system, waiting to be discovered through careful observation, reflection, and quiet contemplation. You exhale slowly, letting the textures, shadows, and crystalline structures settle in your mind, sensing that the next chapter will reveal how subtle shifts in motion, unexpected, delicate, and profound, begin to transform its journey through the cosmos. You drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, noticing the delicate interplay of forces shaping its motion. For long stretches, its speed seems predictable, almost comforting in its constancy. But slowly, imperceptibly at first, subtle shifts emerge. Instruments on Earth detect slight deviations, slight accelerations that seem to whisper, "There is more here than meets the eye." You feel the thrill of discovery, tempered by the calm realization that the universe rarely rushes. It reveals surprises gently, waiting for patience to notice. The comet's acceleration is not abrupt. You imagine a feather pushed by a soft, persistent wind. The effect is almost invisible in a single moment, but accumulates over distance and time. You sense that change in motion is like a secret unfolding, quiet and deliberate. Your mind traces the trajectory, watching the curves deepen, the velocity adjust, and the comet respond to forces that are at once subtle and profound. Every shift carries meaning, even when it is almost imperceptible. You consider what could cause these changes. The comet is a fragile body composed of ice, rock, and dust. Tiny outgassing events, where frozen gases gently escape into space, create minuscule thrusts that gradually alter its path. You imagine these as soft exhalations into the void, each one imperceptible in isolation, but together shaping motion over millions of kilometers. The effect is cumulative, a quiet lesson in persistence and the power of subtle influence. You notice that these unexpected turns challenge assumptions. Even the most careful predictions must be revisited when hidden factors exert their influence. You feel a gentle humility. The cosmos is not fully known, and its lessons are revealed slowly through observation and reflection. You sense that uncertainty is not a failure, but an invitation to pay closer attention, to embrace curiosity without urgency, and to let the mind absorb complexity with patience. The acceleration seems to fluctuate slightly, sometimes increasing, sometimes easing, as if the comet itself is negotiating with the invisible forces around it. You imagine a quiet dialogue between ice, dust, and gas, each particle contributing to the motion. Even distant gravity from planets and interstellar clouds adds its subtle whispers to the mix. You sense that motion is never isolated. It is a conversation between matter and force, unfolding on scales both vast and intimate. You reflect on how measurement itself is a gentle act. Astronomers carefully track the comet, noting tiny deviations in speed and position. Each observation requires patience, precision, and attentiveness. You imagine these measurements as soft touches, connecting human curiosity with cosmic motion, allowing understanding to emerge without disturbance. The quiet diligence of observation mirrors the subtle forces at play, small, persistent, and profoundly impactful. You notice that acceleration carries implications beyond speed. Changes in motion reveal structure, composition, and internal processes. You imagine following the comet's curve, seeing how outgassing affects trajectory, or how uneven surface structures produce unexpected rotations. Each twist, each gentle nudge provides insight into the comet's fragile nature. You feel a sense of intimacy with 3I/ATLAS, as if understanding its motion is akin to listening closely to its soft voice across the void. You consider the role of prediction and surprise. Even with sophisticated models, unexpected turns remind you that the universe contains subtlety beyond immediate comprehension. You imagine that each curve and acceleration is a tiny revelation, a quiet message about balance, interaction, and the delicate choreography of cosmic motion. You feel the calm lesson here. Wonder often emerges where expectation meets gentle anomaly. The comet's speed is not constant, yet neither is it chaotic. You sense a rhythm in the adjustments, a slow unfolding of subtle forces that shape motion without noise. Each tiny acceleration is a brushstroke on the canvas of trajectory, revealing a story written in ice, dust, and energy. You feel that observing these changes is an act of meditation, a gentle alignment with the quiet pulse of the cosmos. You notice that acceleration is also a reminder of interconnectivity. Even small changes in motion can have far-reaching effects, influencing encounters with other bodies or altering paths in ways invisible to the casual observer. You imagine the comet tracing unseen lines across space, each shift a thread connecting past, present, and future events. The gentle influence of hidden forces is a quiet testimony to the interconnectedness of the universe, a lesson in the power of subtlety. You reflect on the emotional resonance of these unexpected turns. Surprise does not startle here, it soothes, inviting curiosity rather than urgency. You sense that the universe communicates through gentle deviation, teaching patience, attention, and quiet openness. Every acceleration, every curve is a soft encouragement to stay present, to follow the trajectory without haste, and to find wonder in the imperceptible unfolding of motion. You imagine the comet gliding through space, each subtle acceleration folding into the next, forming a narrative of motion that is as much about the journey as the destination. You feel that acceleration is not merely a physical measurement, but a meditation, an invitation to consider forces, time, and persistence on scales larger than your mind can fully hold. You sense that even quiet nudges carry lessons in balance and attentiveness, mirrored in the calm rhythm of your own breath. You notice how acceleration becomes a teacher. It shows that influence is cumulative, that the smallest causes can produce meaningful effects over time. You imagine following this lesson inward, recognizing gentle forces at play in thought, behavior, and attention. The comet moves through space with quiet unpredictability, and you learn alongside it. Subtlety is powerful, patience is essential, and observation itself is a form of connection. You feel the cumulative nature of these soft changes. Each tiny acceleration blends into the next, creating a motion that is continuous, evolving, and entirely unique. You imagine the comet carrying these shifts forward, a silent chronicle of small events adding together into something noticeable only with careful attention. The lesson here is calm. In the universe, as in life, persistence and subtle influence matter profoundly, even when imperceptible in the moment. You notice that the surprises are gentle, never violent. The comet does not lurch, it does not spin out of control, it responds gradually to the forces that surround it. You sense that this is the universe's way of teaching patience, showing that change can be profound without urgency, that motion can be meaningful without noise. You feel a quiet awe for the slow, deliberate dance of forces shaping 3I/ATLAS across the void. And as you drift with the comet, noticing its delicate accelerations, you realize that the universe continues to surprise even in silence. Each unexpected turn invites reflection, attention, and wonder, revealing the intricate choreography of hidden forces at work. You exhale slowly, letting the gentle rhythm of motion settle in your mind, and sense that the next chapter will reveal how the comet's journey is a symphony of motion, a melody written in speed, gravity, and the quiet whispers of space. You drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, feeling its motion not just as travel but as a quiet rhythm. Every subtle shift, every gentle acceleration becomes a note in an invisible symphony, a melody composed by gravity, mass, and momentum. You sense that the comet is both musician and instrument, moving through space while simultaneously revealing the unseen harmonies of motion. Each curve, each shift in speed carries intention born of physics, precise and intricate, yet invisible to the eye. You imagine the comet as a quiet percussion, each small acceleration a soft beat. Gravity acts like a conductor, guiding this silent orchestra across light years, ensuring that every particle, every fragment of ice and stone participates in the larger composition. You feel the cadence of motion, not in sound but in perception, the rise and fall of velocity, the subtle changes in trajectory, the gentle dance between momentum and invisible force. Each adjustment is both deliberate and inevitable, creating a slow meditative rhythm you can follow in your mind. You notice that the comet's path is shaped by multiple overlapping influences, producing harmonies more complex than a single force could create. Outgassing produces tiny, unpredictable variations. Gravity tugs from planets and stars. Radiation from the sun exerts pressure across its surface. These elements blend into an intricate melody, subtle and continuous, a cosmic lullaby that unfolds over vast distances. You feel the rhythm resonate within you, a slow pulse that mirrors your breath, connecting your attention to the quiet dance of matter and energy. You imagine that acceleration itself is part of the music. The subtle increases in speed are like crescendos, gentle swells that hint at the potential for change. You notice how each adjustment follows naturally from the last, a composition shaped by cause and effect, by the interplay of forces. Even when the acceleration is too small to measure without instruments, your mind senses its presence, appreciating the continuity, the flow, and the elegance of motion that obeys natural law. You consider the role of gravity as the silent orchestrator. Massive bodies, distant yet powerful, produce curves and arcs in the comet's trajectory, analogous to a melody shaped by an unseen hand. You imagine lines of force stretching across space, invisible threads guiding motion with subtlety and patience. The comet responds seamlessly, tracing a path that is simultaneously complex and harmonious. You sense that gravity's influence is both gentle and insistent, a quiet pulse underlying the music of motion. You notice that the comet's irregular shape adds nuance to the composition. Jagged rocks, icy ridges, and dusty depressions influence how outgassing produces thrust, creating variations in the pattern of acceleration. You imagine these as tonal shifts in the symphony, moments of tension and release that add depth to the melody. Even tiny irregularities have significance. A small fissure might redirect a plume of gas, subtly altering trajectory, introducing a new motif in the ongoing composition. Each detail, no matter how small, contributes to the overall harmony. You reflect on the idea that motion is communication. The comet moves, not randomly, but in response to forces that carry information about distant objects, the composition of its own body, and the energy of its environment. You imagine the melody as a language, notes written in curves, phrasing created by acceleration, and dynamics revealed in variation of speed. Listening with your mind, you perceive not sound, but pattern, rhythm, and intention. You feel that understanding these patterns is a form of deep presence, a meditation on the connectivity of matter and force. You notice that the comet's movement is continuous, never abrupt. There is no sudden jolt, no discordant interruption. You imagine the music unfolding slowly, like a string of notes played with infinite patience, each one following naturally from the last. Even over millions of kilometers, over the span of hours, days, and months, the rhythm persists, coherent and gentle. You sense a deep calm in this continuity. The universe does not hurry, and yet everything progresses with precise, purposeful grace. You consider how light interacts with motion, bending slightly along the path the comet traces. The sun's radiation illuminates crystals in the ice, producing glints and reflections that accentuate the movement. You imagine these sparkles as visual notes, a complementary melody to the rhythm of acceleration. Light and motion together create a multi-sensory experience in your mind, a slow meditative performance played across the stage of the solar system. You feel enveloped in this cosmic music, a participant in a dance that transcends sensory perception. You notice that acceleration interacts with rotation, creating subtle modulations in the pattern. The comet spins gently as it moves, presenting new surfaces to sunlight, redirecting plumes of gas, and altering the way momentum shifts. You imagine this as a harmonic layer, a quiet counterpoint weaving alongside the main melody. The complexity is beautiful and meditative. Each rotation adds depth, each twist a soft accent in a composition that is imperceptible to most, yet profound in its effect. You imagine that the comet carries the memory of motion within itself. Past interactions, collisions, and outgassing events have left imprints in its trajectory, influencing future movement. You sense the symphony as cumulative, built over eons, each note a reflection of previous patterns. Acceleration, rotation, and the gentle tug of distant gravity combine into a melody shaped by time itself. You feel the rhythm echo in your own perception, a lullaby of the cosmos that unfolds gently as you follow it alongside. You notice that even in subtlety, there is teaching. The music of motion conveys patience, persistence, and responsiveness. Small forces have profound effects. Slight deviations can lead to new patterns. You imagine the comet's path as a lesson in attentiveness, showing that understanding emerges not through forceful intervention, but by careful observation and quiet reflection. You feel a sense of intimacy with the cosmos, as if listening to this melody aligned your mind with the rhythm of existence itself. And as you continue to drift with 3I/ATLAS, following each curve and acceleration, you realize that the universe is a composition without end. Each motion, each gentle nudge, is part of a continuous performance. You exhale slowly, letting the rhythm settle in your awareness, feeling the soft pulse of motion, the harmony of acceleration, and the subtle music of forces at play. And as the melody of motion lulls you, you sense that the next chapter will reveal the hidden forces beyond gravity, the invisible whispers that shape the comet's journey in ways even more delicate and profound. You drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, feeling the stillness of space around it. The comet moves gracefully, yet beneath this apparent calm, unseen forces guide its journey. You imagine these forces as whispers, soft and imperceptible, shaping the trajectory without urgency. Each is gentle alone, but together they form a choreography that directs the comet through the cosmos. You sense that understanding these invisible influences is like tuning into a language written not in sound, but in motion. The first of these subtle guides is radiation pressure. Photons from the sun, though massless, carry momentum, striking the comet's surface and producing infinitesimal pushes. You imagine sunlight as countless tiny dancers, each one nudging the comet ever so slightly, their combined influence felt only over vast distances. You feel the elegance of this process. What seems immaterial exerts real effect, reminding you that even the smallest energy, when persistent, shapes motion profoundly. Outgassing is another quiet participant. As 3I/ATLAS approaches the inner solar system, sunlight warms pockets of ice hidden within its structure. Molecules of water, carbon dioxide, and other volatile compounds escape into space, producing faint jets. You imagine these plumes as the comet's breath, gentle exhalations that propel it forward, slow and precise. Though barely perceptible to the eye, the cumulative effect alters speed and direction, guiding the path in subtle, patient ways. You sense that even quiet, invisible activity carries consequence. You consider the interactions between rotation and these invisible forces. The comet does not always present the same face to the sun. Its spin causes jets to flicker across surfaces, creating tiny, shifting pushes. You imagine this as a whispering conversation between light, heat, and matter, each influencing the next. The comet becomes a sensitive instrument, responding to every imperceptible nudge, folding tiny adjustments into its journey with care and continuity. Gravity, though more familiar, has its own invisible subtleties. You sense how distant planets, stars, and even clouds of interstellar matter exert minuscule pulls. These forces are gentle, barely noticeable in a single moment, yet they accumulate over millions of kilometers to guide motion in ways both predictable and surprising. You feel the comet moving not just under its own momentum, but in dialogue with a universe full of quiet attractors, each shaping the path without hurry or imposition. You notice that the interplay of these forces is complex. Radiation, outgassing, and gravitational tugs interact in delicate balance. You imagine tracing a single trajectory in your mind, seeing how tiny deviations influence motion across time. One small plume of gas can offset the effect of distant gravity. One glancing photon strike can reinforce it. You feel that these invisible forces are teaching a profound lesson. The universe operates in subtle layers, and understanding requires patience, observation, and gentle attentiveness. Even the microstructure of the comet contributes. Porosity, fissures, and uneven surfaces create variations in how forces act. You imagine sunlight catching an icy ridge differently than a dusty depression, producing slight asymmetries in outgassing. Momentum responds to these small differences, altering the path in ways that are predictable only when observed with care. You sense that every detail matters, that even what is unseen carries influence. You reflect on the nature of imperceptibility. In space, what is invisible can be as potent as what is obvious. Forces you cannot see, pressures you cannot feel, produce real effects. You imagine these as the soft undercurrents of a river, shaping flow silently, guiding direction with patience. The comet's journey is the result of countless invisible factors, each contributing to the overall path, a quiet symphony of subtle guidance. You notice how these forces interact over time. A tiny push today may become significant weeks or months later. You imagine a slow accumulation of influence, each imperceptible nudge combining with the next to produce a trajectory that is both inevitable and delicate. The comet responds like a musical instrument, resonating with gentle energy, translating subtle interaction into motion. You feel that this teaches a quiet truth. The small and unseen can have profound effects over long spans. You consider human observation in this context. Astronomers detect anomalies in motion that hint at invisible influences, tracing the subtle dance of forces. You imagine them interpreting data like a conductor listening to the softest notes in a symphony, understanding that the melody of motion is layered, complex, and delicate. Observation becomes an act of reverence, a slow alignment with the quiet rhythms of the cosmos. You notice how unpredictability emerges naturally from subtle forces. Outgassing can be uneven, rotation can shift plumes, and radiation can exert differential pressure across surfaces. Each tiny factor, in isolation small, combines to produce motion that is gentle yet surprising. You imagine following these variations, sensing these soft shifts as part of a larger narrative. You feel calm in this unpredictability, understanding that the universe's surprises are gentle, measured, and instructive. You reflect on the beauty of imperceptible influence. These invisible forces create elegance in motion, a choreography unseen yet deeply felt. The comet's path is not abrupt or chaotic, but smooth and continuous, a story written in subtlety. You imagine feeling the rhythm of these whispers, noticing how persistence, patience, and quiet accumulation produce change. You sense that even in silence the universe teaches lessons about presence, attentiveness, and gentle causality. You imagine the comet navigating through this web of invisible influences. Each minor adjustment blends seamlessly into the next, producing a motion that is coherent, purposeful, and astonishingly delicate. You feel that observation and reflection allow you to participate in this quiet unfolding, not by interference but by awareness. Each force, though unseen, communicates with precision, shaping a journey that is both inevitable and astonishing in its detail. You consider the metaphor of a gentle river. Invisible currents beneath the surface guide the flow, shaping movement without dramatic turbulence. You imagine 3I/ATLAS gliding through space in a similar way, carried not just by momentum but by countless quiet, imperceptible nudges. You feel the poetry of this comparison, understanding that forces beyond perception govern the motion of even the most distant objects. You sense that in acknowledging these subtle influences, you align your mind with the rhythm of the cosmos, and as you drift with the comet, sensing radiation pressure, outgassing, and distant gravitational whispers, you realize that motion is never isolated. Each force contributes to a tapestry of influence, invisible yet profound, guiding 3I/ATLAS along a unique path. You exhale slowly, letting the quiet flow of unseen energy settle in your mind. And you sense that the next chapter will reveal how this motion, shaped by the invisible forces, becomes a melody. A music of space-time you can feel if only you listen closely. You imagine the long voyage of 3I/ATLAS drifting across the emptiness between stars. This is no ordinary comet, bound to our sun by familiar paths. Its trajectory tells a different story, a journey from a distant region of the galaxy, perhaps even beyond the familiar neighborhood of our solar system. You sense the vastness of space surrounding it, the stretches of quiet void, and you let your mind drift along its solitary path, tracing the journey backward through time and distance. You picture the comet as it formed, somewhere in a distant cold region of space. Particles of dust and ice slowly gathered, colliding with gentle frequency, sticking together over eons. You imagine the delicate patience of this process, grains building into larger structures, shapes emerging from the randomness of tiny collisions. Each step in its creation is slow, precise, and invisible to casual observation, yet you feel the care inherent in its formation, as though the universe itself took its time, waiting until the structure was ready to begin its journey. You consider the interstellar medium it must have passed through. Clouds of gas, dust, and radiation stretch across the galaxy, largely unseen, shaping motion in subtle ways. You imagine the comet threading through these regions, feeling the invisible currents of energy and matter, adjusting its trajectory imperceptibly as it drifts. You sense the persistence required to cross such vast distances, the patience of motion unhurried, each moment building on the previous, creating a rhythm that spans millennia. You think of the stars it passed, distant suns rising and fading from its perspective over time. Some may have been massive, short-lived, erupting in quiet brilliance before disappearing entirely. Others burned steadily for billions of years, providing gentle illumination to regions it traversed. You imagine the comet gliding past each one, absorbing traces of energy, moving under their subtle gravitational influence, learning a silent lesson in the interconnectedness of matter and motion. Each encounter, though imperceptible to us, leaves a mark on its path, shaping its long, solitary journey. You notice that its interstellar path is largely uninterrupted by collisions. You imagine the vast empty stretches it moves through, quiet and still, interrupted only by the rare encounter with a particle or radiation wave. These encounters are small, almost trivial in the moment, yet over time they create tiny nudges that accumulate. You feel the beauty of persistence, the gentle cumulative effect of countless imperceptible forces guiding its motion. A reminder that even in the emptiness of space, influence is ever present. You imagine the comet approaching the solar system for the first time. The familiar sun begins to exert a stronger pull, guiding it into a new neighborhood of gravitational influence. You sense a transition. The comet's interstellar identity begins to merge with local dynamics, yet it remains a visitor, not bound by the same rules that govern familiar comets. Its path is unique, a testament to its distant origins, and you feel the subtle excitement of being witness to a journey that transcends ordinary celestial experience. You reflect on the comet's composition, which hints at its origin. Its ices and dust carry chemical signatures, a record of the environment in which it formed. You imagine tracing these compounds in thought, complex molecules, frozen volatiles, remnants of distant interstellar clouds. Each particle is a message from its past, a story that speaks across time and space. You sense that the comet is not just a physical traveler, but a messenger, carrying information about regions and epochs you cannot otherwise touch. You consider the isolation of this journey. 3I/ATLAS has drifted alone, unobserved, for millions or even billions of years. There are no companions, no routine gravitational cycles to stabilize its path, only the subtle influences of forces both familiar and exotic. You imagine this solitude as a meditation in motion, quiet, unhurried, reflective. The comet moves with patience, adapting to each invisible touch, absorbing energy and momentum with care, tracing a course that is both inevitable and uniquely its own. You feel the perspective of time stretching across the comet's voyage. The distances it has crossed are almost impossible to fathom. Light itself would take years, decades, or even centuries to reach points along its path. Yet the comet moves steadily, each moment building upon the last, a continuum of motion that defies hurry. You sense that in this patience lies wisdom. The universe progresses without urgency, yet nothing is wasted, and even the smallest influence leaves its mark over long stretches of existence. You imagine the comet entering the solar system as a visitor, silently passing planets, asteroids, and familiar celestial markers. It brings a story with it, though we cannot hear it directly. You sense that this journey is a reminder of perspective. The sun is not the center of all motion, nor the limit of possibility. Even now, as it approaches and eventually leaves, 3I/ATLAS carries with it the echoes of distant stars, the memory of interstellar clouds, and the quiet patience of motion across the galaxy. You notice that the comet's unique trajectory allows us to glimpse the broader cosmos. Astronomers trace its path, marveling at deviations that speak of interstellar origins. You imagine feeling these deviations as subtle musical notes, gentle reminders that motion and history are intertwined. Every curve and acceleration is a clue, an invitation to reflect on scales of distance and time far beyond everyday perception. The comet becomes both teacher and companion, moving through solitude while inviting you into awareness. You reflect on the emotional resonance of such a journey. Despite the vast distances and long durations, the comet remains a tangible presence in thought. You feel a quiet kinship. This visitor from afar moves patiently, without rush, guided by forces invisible yet precise. Its passage reminds you of endurance, persistence, and the gentle unfolding of history, all encoded in motion across a silent, majestic void. And as you drift with 3I/ATLAS, following it from interstellar beginnings toward the inner solar system, you realize that each moment of its voyage is a meditation on patience, time, and distance. Its trajectory is a living record of processes spanning light years, each acceleration and curve a quiet reflection of cosmic influence. You exhale slowly, feeling the depth of its solitary journey, and sense that the next chapter will take you even closer. Following the astronomers' careful work as they track its subtle motions, decipher anomalies, and interpret whispers from a visitor who has come from the depths of the galaxy, you imagine yourself alongside the astronomers, watching as they turn their attention to 3I/ATLAS. Instruments hum softly, mirrors tilt, and sensors capture light that has travelled for millions of kilometres to reach Earth. Each observation is a quiet act of patience, a deliberate attempt to understand something distant yet intimately present. You feel the calm rhythm of data collection, the careful balance between curiosity and precision, like breathing in the soft expanse of the cosmos. Tracking a visitor from beyond the solar system requires diligence. You sense the way astronomers follow tiny deviations in trajectory, noting how small changes in position, speed, or brightness may reveal hidden forces at play. You imagine each measurement as a gentle touch connecting human perception with the comet's long journey. Every point of data adds texture, a soft layer of understanding in the unfolding story of motion across space and time. You notice the challenge of uncertainty. Even the most precise instruments cannot capture everything at once. Variations in observation, atmospheric interference, and subtle forces acting on the comet create ambiguity. You feel the tension this produces, not a harsh anxiety, but a quiet invitation to remain attentive, to let curiosity coexist with humility. Knowledge is not immediate. It is a soft unfolding, like light spreading slowly across the surface of a dark lake. You imagine the astronomers' calculations as a conversation with the cosmos. Each observation produces equations, simulations, predictions, and models. These tools attempt to anticipate 3I/ATLAS's next motion, yet they are never perfect. Tiny forces, previously unnoticed, can shift trajectories. You sense that this is the beauty of observation. The universe is not fully known, and its guidance is gentle, requiring patience and repeated attention to discern patterns. You feel the quiet rhythm of prediction. Every night the comet is observed, positions plotted, and motions analysed. Calculations are refined with new measurements, anomalies noted, and uncertainties accounted for. You imagine this iterative process as a slow dance, where every step builds upon the last, and understanding emerges gradually. You sense that discovery is less about sudden revelation and more about steady, attentive observation over time. You notice the subtle interplay between certainty and wonder. Some aspects of the comet's motion are well understood. Its speed, trajectory, and orientation follow predictable patterns. Yet others remain mysterious. Slight accelerations, unexpected rotations, and tiny deviations hint at hidden influences. You feel the gentle tension of this duality, realizing that it is the unknown that keeps curiosity alive. Even certainty is soft, never final, always subject to refinement and reinterpretation. You imagine the tools astronomers use to capture light from the distant space. Telescopes, spectrometers, and imaging sensors record photons that have traveled vast distances, bringing information about the comet's composition, structure, and behavior. You picture each measurement as a quiet note in a symphony of discovery, adding nuance, depth, and clarity to the understanding of a body moving through solitude. You sense the soft connection between observer and observed, each reinforcing the other in a gentle dance of awareness. You notice how anomalies guide attention. When 3I/a TLAS deviates from predictions, scientists focus on subtle causes, outgassing patterns, variations in shape, or gravitational nudges from unseen objects. You imagine each anomaly as a whisper, hinting at forces invisible yet real. You sense that tracking is not only measurement but interpretation, the art of reading motion as a story written in acceleration, orientation, and subtle cosmic influence. You reflect on the patience required to follow such a journey. Observations occur over days, weeks, and months. Calculations must be revisited repeatedly, models adjusted, and hypotheses reconsidered. You imagine this as a meditative practice where repeated attention strengthens understanding not through force but through gentle accumulation. You sense that the same patience present in the comet's long voyage is mirrored in the careful diligence of those who track it. You notice the beauty in the collaborative effort. Astronomers around the world contribute observations, share calculations, and refine predictions. You imagine this global attention as a quiet chorus, soft yet resonant, each voice adding clarity to a complex story. The comet, distant and solitary, becomes a focal point for human collaboration, a reminder that understanding arises not in isolation, but in the gentle interplay of minds and instruments across space. You sense how patterns emerge over time. Individual observations, when carefully assembled, reveal arcs of motion, subtle variations in SED, and the faint influence of forces too small to notice immediately. You imagine this as a slow unveiling, like waves gently revealing shells on the shore, each detail adding to the unfolding picture. You feel the rhythm of discovery, soft, deliberate, and continuous, revealing structure and meaning where once there was only the silent void. You notice how the unknown invites reflection. Each unanswered question, each deviation from expectation, opens space for imagination and curiosity. You imagine pondering the causes of acceleration, the influence of unseen forces, and the chemical composition of the comet. You feel a gentle wonder in this uncertainty, a soft curiosity that allows the mind to explore without urgency, savouring each subtle hint that emerges from observation. You imagine how tracking the comet creates a bridge between scales. The instruments capture photons travelling millions of kilometres, while human attention interprets minute accelerations, rotations, and changes in brightness. You feel a connection spanning the vast emptiness between observer and object, a gentle meditation on distance, time, and the shared understanding that emerges from careful attention. You sense that even in solitude, 3I/a TLAS communicates with the world through its motion, its presence, and the data it leaves behind. You notice that this process is iterative. Observations feed into models which predict future positions, which in turn guide new observations. Each step refines knowledge, bringing hidden forces and subtle effects into clearer view. You imagine this iterative pattern as a gentle breathing, an inhale and exhale of understanding, where curiosity and attention flow together to illuminate the comet's unique story. You reflect on the emotional resonance of tracking the unknown. There is no rush, no urgency, only attentive presence. Each observation is an act of mindfulness, a way to connect with something distant yet tangible. You feel a quiet companionship with the astronomers, as though their patience, curiosity, and gentle care are mirrored in your own awareness of the comet's journey. You sense that the pursuit of understanding can be calming, like floating in the rhythm of motion itself. And as you drift with the comet, following the careful work of those who track its path, you realize that knowledge is a soft unfolding. Every calculation, every observation, every prediction is a gentle brushstroke painting the portrait of a visitor from afar. You exhale slowly, feeling the quiet tension and wonder merge in your mind, and sense that the next chapter will explore acceleration itself, the subtle art of speed, its lessons, and the quiet revelations it brings to anyone patient enough to observe. You drift with 3I/a TLAS, noticing how its pace subtly shifts. At first, the change is imperceptible, a gentle nudge, a quiet increase in speed, but over time the cumulative effect becomes clear. You feel that acceleration is not a force to rush or push, but a patient storyteller, revealing secrets through the slow accumulation of tiny motions. It teaches you to observe carefully, to notice patterns that emerge gradually rather than expect instant revelation. You imagine the comet as a leaf on a stream. Its journey seems smooth and continuous, yet beneath the surface, currents guide its motion, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. Acceleration is like the stream's quiet eddies, invisible yet effective. Each subtle nudge contributes to the overall path, shaping the story of travel across space. You sense that the universe often works this way, gently, patiently, revealing magnitude through patience rather than sudden spectacle. You consider the interplay of forces that cause the comet to accelerate. Outgassing produces tiny intermittent jets of gas, releasing momentum that nudges the comet forward. Radiation pressure from the sun exerts an almost imperceptible push, constant and subtle. Gravitational interactions with planets or even distant stars influence trajectory and speed, invisible threads shaping the path. You imagine each contribution as a note in a soft symphony, each small but essential to the harmony of motion. You notice how these subtle influences accumulate over time. A tiny increase in speed may seem meaningless in the moment, yet days or weeks later, its effect becomes measurable. You feel the lesson in patience. Change is often gradual, imperceptible, and quiet, yet relentless. The universe teaches that influence need not be sudden or dramatic to be profound. You exhale slowly, imagining each microscopic nudge building into a coherent, meaningful acceleration, just as small habits build into lasting impact in your own life. You reflect on human attempts to measure acceleration. Instruments detect minute changes, subtle deviations in position, velocity, or trajectory. Calculations reveal patterns previously hidden, confirming that even the smallest forces can produce detectable motion. You imagine astronomers tracing these changes with quiet reverence, as if listening to a conversation between the comet and the cosmos. Each increment of acceleration is a word in a language written not in sound, but in motion. You notice how rotation and shape influence acceleration. As 3i/ATLAS spins, different surfaces face the sun at different moments, altering the direction and intensity of outgassing. Irregularities in the comet's form produce slight variations, redirecting plumes, subtly shifting momentum. You imagine these as the comet's choices, not conscious but natural, a response to structure and environment. The universe reveals that even in a body moving through emptiness, form matters and variation shapes destiny. You consider the broader implications of acceleration. It is not merely a physical property, but a mediator of interaction. Through acceleration, unseen forces communicate their presence. Radiation, gravity, and outgassing reveal themselves through changes in motion. You feel that acceleration is a kind of handwriting, a delicate inscription left on the path of the comet, readable by anyone patient enough to notice. Its story is written in velocity, change, and trajectory, a record of the invisible dance of forces. You notice that acceleration is cumulative, a lesson in persistence. Small pushes accumulate, creating noticeable effects over time. You imagine a pebble falling in a quiet pond, ripples growing, intersecting, and reshaping the surface. Similarly, the comet's subtle accelerations ripple through its motion, producing a path that is smooth yet complex, predictable yet delicate. You sense that life, like motion, rewards attention to small, consistent influences that may seem insignificant at first glance. You imagine following the comet over weeks and months, tracing its acceleration like a story unfolding line by line. Each subtle increase in speed reveals the work of forces you cannot see yet can infer through careful observation. You feel a soft awe in this gradual unveiling, the kind of reverence that arises not from spectacle but from understanding. The cosmos shares its secrets in quiet increments, and you learn to receive them slowly, letting comprehension settle gently in your mind. You reflect on the delicate balance of predictability and surprise. Acceleration can be anticipated in general terms, yet the details remain unpredictable. Tiny jets may flare unexpectedly, radiation may exert differential pressure, or a distant gravitational tug may subtly redirect the path. You imagine these surprises as soft punctuation marks in the ongoing story, gentle reminders that even in a system governed by law, mystery persists. This is the poetry of motion. Precise yet flexible, structured yet alive. You notice that observing acceleration fosters intimacy with the cosmos. By tracking its subtle cues, you feel connected to forces across space, tracing patterns invisible to most. You sense that awareness itself becomes a form of participation, a quiet acknowledgement of the work of gravity, momentum, and energy over vast distances. The comet moves, and in noticing its gentle accelerations, you move with it, attuned to the language of change written in space-time. You imagine the comet as a teacher. Each subtle increase in velocity is a lessening cause and effect, in the patient accumulation of influence, in the quiet shaping power of natural law, so you reflect on your own experiences, noticing how small adjustments and gentle persistence yield meaningful change over time. The comet whispers softly that understanding comes not through rush or force, but through observation, presence, and attentive care. You notice the emotional rhythm of following acceleration. There is anticipation, a gentle curiosity, and a soft release of understanding as each small motion is observed and comprehended. You feel calm, as though motion itself is a meditation. The universe moves at its own pace, and in tuning your mind to that pace, you experience its quiet harmony. You breathe slowly, letting the subtle rhythm of acceleration echo in your awareness. You sense that acceleration is more than speed. It is the expression of interaction, a reflection of imperceptible forces working in concert. You imagine the comet's motion as a narrative written in velocity and time, a story that unfolds with patience and precision. Every change in speed, every subtle nudge, is both lesson and revelation. You feel that by attending to these details, you participate in a dialogue between observer and cosmos, between curiosity and understanding. And as you drift alongside 3I/A/TLAS, observing its subtle, patient acceleration, you feel a quiet connection to the universe itself. You sense the accumulation of forces, the soft story written in motion, and the gentle teaching of persistence. Exhaling slowly, you realize that the next chapter will reveal the comet's own expression. The quiet, natural breath of outgassing, a subtle voice shaping the path, a gentle reminder that even in silence the universe speaks. You drift closer to 3I/ATLAS, imagining its icy surface warmed by sunlight. In the cold emptiness of space, the heat triggers subtle reactions. Ice transforms into vapor, carrying tiny particles of dust into the void. You sense the comet's breath as something delicate yet persistent, small exhalations that ripple outward into space. These gentle plumes are imperceptible from afar, yet they shape the comet's motion, subtly influencing speed and direction. You feel the quiet intimacy of witnessing such natural expression, knowing that even in Interstellar, the comet communicates. You notice the patterns of outgassing. Jets of gas erupt sporadically from fissures, cracks, and porous areas in the comet's surface. Some plumes are strong, others barely perceptible, yet together they produce measurable effects. You imagine the comet breathing, a slow rhythm that mirrors life itself. Its exhalations are soft, almost meditative, yet their impact accumulates over time. You sense a gentle lesson. Small acts, repeated consistently, can have profound effects. You consider the composition of these exhalations. Water vapor dominates, mixed with carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and traces of more complex molecules. Tiny grains of dust ride the gaseous streams, leaving streaks across the void. You picture these compounds as messages, tiny fragments carrying the story of distant regions where the comet formed. Each breath carries information, hints of origin, composition, and history. You feel that in observing these subtle emissions, you glimpse the comet's private expression, its quiet way of leaving traces across space. You notice how the comet's rotation affects the plumes. As it spins, sunlight warms different regions, causing jets to flare and fade. You imagine these fluctuations as gentle gestures, invisible to casual observation, but meaningful in their aggregate effect. Each rotational cycle produces variations, a soft cadence that guides motion, influencing trajectory and speed. You sense the connection between form, motion, and expression. The comet's shape and rotation are as much a part of its breath as the ice and dust themselves. You reflect on the physics behind these exhalations. When ice sublimates, gas molecules escape with tiny momentum, pushing the comet slightly in the opposite direction. This is a natural propulsion, subtle but cumulative. You feel the elegance of this process. No engines, no machinery, only the simple physics of matter and energy acting over time. The universe demonstrates its quiet efficiency, using small, persistent forces to shape motion in ways both predictable and surprising. You imagine tracing a single plume of gas, watching its particles drift into the void. Dust grains separate, light scatters, and the vapor disperses slowly. Yet the comet feels the effect of this exhalation in return, its path altered ever so slightly. You sense that this is a form of dialogue. The comet acts, space responds, and motion evolves. Each breath is both expression and interaction, an intimate conversation between the comet and the vast emptiness it inhabits. You notice how subtle variations in surface composition create diversity in the outgassing. Pockets rich in volatiles produce stronger jets, while rocky, dusty regions remain quiet. You imagine the comet as a living mosaic, each surface feature contributing uniquely to its movement and expression. You sense that no two breaths are exactly alike, and yet together they form a coherent pattern, a soft rhythm that guides the comet forward through the darkness. You reflect on the interplay between the comet's breath and its acceleration. Outgassing produces small intermittent thrusts that add to the overall momentum, gradually changing velocity. You feel the patient nature of this process. Change is imperceptible in a single moment, but cumulative over days, weeks, and months. You sense that the universe works similarly, encouraging attention to the gentle, incremental forces that shape progress over time. You imagine observing this phenomenon from a distance. Instruments detect changes in speed, deviations from predicted paths, and variations in brightness as plumes reflect sunlight. Each measurement is a soft confirmation of processes invisible to the naked eye. You feel a gentle appreciation for the careful observation required to understand such subtle forces. The comet breathes quietly, and yet its influence can be measured, interpreted, and appreciated by those who watch attentively. You consider the metaphor of breathing as a form of presence. Just as inhalation and exhalation sustain life, the comet's outgassing sustains its motion, guiding its journey through the solar system. You imagine a rhythm emerging, a cadence in which substance, energy, and structure participate in quiet cooperation. You feel a kinship in this rhythm, noticing that both you and the comet exist in flows of energy, small acts accumulating to produce movement, awareness, and understanding. You notice the visual effect of these plumes. Tiny particles catch sunlight, forming wisps and streaks that stretch into space. You imagine these as ephemeral threads, soft traces left behind in the void, linking the comet to the solar system in subtle ways. Even though the particles disperse, the pattern persists, an expression of continuity, of presence, and of gentle influence. You sense that in noticing these traces, you participate in a quiet observation of beauty and order. You reflect on the temporality of outgassing. Plumes appear, grow, fade, and sometimes vanish entirely as surface conditions change. You imagine each breath as a fleeting gesture, a momentary release that leaves lasting impact. You feel that this teaches a universal truth. Even brief, subtle actions can influence trajectories and histories in ways that ripple forward through time. There is poetry in this lesson, soft and meditative, connecting observation, awareness, and care. You sense that the comet's breath is a kind of communication. Though silent and imperceptible to human senses, it conveys motion, history, and presence. Each exhalation carries the weight of millennia, a record of formation, interstellar travel, and the quiet unfolding of interaction with the sun. You imagine interpreting this language as a slow, attentive meditation, each observation revealing nuance, pattern, and gentle instruction. You notice the emotional resonance of witnessing this breath. There is wonder, curiosity, and a sense of intimacy with the cosmos. You feel that observing such subtle natural processes instills calm, patience, and reflection. The comet moves, breathes, and expresses, and you move with it in thought, attuned to the rhythm of distant processes that operate without haste, yet with precision. You reflect on how even in the vast emptiness of space, small acts matter. Each puff of gas, each escaping particle gradually influences motion, reshaping trajectories and revealing hidden patterns. You sense a quiet lesson in agency. Subtle, persistent actions accumulate into meaningful outcomes. The comet's breath reminds you that in silence and stillness, there is influence, movement, and continuity. And as you drift with 3I/A, TLAS, observing its gentle exhalations and the tiny nudges they produce, you feel a soft harmony between motion, expression, and effect. Each plume is a whisper, each particle a note in a quiet symphony. You exhale slowly, letting the rhythm of the comet's breath settle in your mind, and sense that the next chapter will reveal echoes of its journey, signals and influences traveling across space, touching instruments, planets, and distant observers, reminding you that even the faintest motion leaves a trace. You drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, noticing that even in its solitude, the comet leaves traces behind. Each shift in velocity, each plume of gas and dust creates ripples that travel outward. You imagine these as soft echoes, moving through space like gentle waves on a pond. They carry information about motion, composition, and the subtle interactions with the environment, reaching planets, instruments, and sensors far from the comet itself. You sense that even in quiet motion, the comet communicates, leaving marks that others may interpret. You notice the solar's wind flowing past the comet, a stream of charged particles moving from the sun. As the comet releases gas and dust, these plumes interact with the solar wind, forming faint glowing tails. You imagine the comet's presence as a ripple against a current, subtle yet persistent. Each particle interacts with its surroundings, carrying momentum, scattering light, and leaving an imprint that can be traced by those who watch carefully. You feel a soft connection between the observer and the observed, a thread extending across the void. You consider the invisible influence of gravity. Each mass, from the smallest dust grain to the comet's core, exerts a force on surrounding objects. You imagine planets subtly responding to the comet's passage, not in dramatic shifts, but in imperceptible changes that accumulate over time. These interactions form a network of cause and effect, delicate and precise, revealing a cosmic choreography in which even a small visitor participates. You sense that nothing in space is isolated, that every motion resonates quietly across distance. You imagine the paths of photons scattered by the comet's tail. Light reflects off tiny particles, traveling for minutes, hours, or days before reaching telescopes on Earth. Each photon carries a story about position, composition, and motion, a whisper of information that scientists capture, decode, and interpret. You feel the beauty of this process. The comet's journey becomes a conversation, written in light, that reaches minds capable of listening with patience and care. You notice how subtle vibrations move through instruments designed to detect them. Radio waves, spectral lines, and minute changes in brightness act as signals, echoing the comet's presence. You imagine the scientists' minds tracing these faint signals, detecting patterns hidden within apparent chaos. You feel a quiet admiration for the ability to perceive such whispers and sense the intimacy created by the act of careful, attentive observation. The echoes of the comet become a shared experience, linking observer and traveler across the solar system. You reflect on the nature of space as a medium for these echoes. Though seemingly empty, it is filled with light, particles, magnetic fields, and energy flows that carry influence. The comet's motion interacts with these elements, producing subtle effects detectable to those who look closely. You sense that space itself is not scalant, but a canvas upon which motion leaves patterns, trails, and echoes, all part of a vast interwoven story of cause, effect, and connection. You imagine following a single dust grain released from the comet. It drifts slowly, pushed by outgassing sunlight and gravity, tracing an invisible path that stretches across millions of kilometers. Even tiny objects like this contribute to the echo of the comet's journey, subtle fingerprints left on space. You feel that every detail matters, and that the universe teaches through small actions as much as through grand events, showing that presence and impact are inseparable. You notice the emotional resonance of observing these echoes. The comet's path, its breath, its interactions with space all become a meditation on continuity and connection. You sense a gentle reassurance that even in solitude, influence exists, linking everything in a subtle web. The comet's journey is both individual and communal, moving alone while leaving ripples that touch distant observers, instruments, and planetary environments. You exhale slowly, attuned to the quiet rhythm of motion, influence, and resonance. You reflect on the role of time in these echoes. Signals propagate at the speed of light or slightly slower, reaching instruments long after the comet has moved past. You imagine the delay as a gentle stretching of experience, a reminder that action and observation are separated by distance and duration. Yet in this delay, the story remains coherent, each effect following cause, each observation revealing more about the comet's motion, composition, and interaction with its surroundings. You notice that the echoes of motion create patterns over time. Scientists chart these subtle traces, discerning the cumulative influence of outgassing, rotation, and gravitational interactions. You imagine the comet's motion as a melody, each change in speed or direction a note, each echo a soft chord. Together, these signals compose a symphony of movement, a quiet communication bridging vast distances, connecting solitary motion to attentive observers on Earth. You consider the human capacity to perceive and interpret these echoes. With patience, careful measurement, and repeated observation, astronomers translate faint signals into understanding. You feel the intimacy of this process. The comet speaks through motion, radiation, and scattered particles, and the human mind listens, interprets, and records. The act of observing becomes part of the echo, a shared experience spanning millions of kilometers, linking knowledge, curiosity, and the soft rhythm of discovery. You imagine the comet's influence reaching beyond Earth. Its dust spreads through the solar system, mixing with other particles, occasionally interacting with planetary atmospheres or magnetospheres. You picture these tiny encounters as gentle reminders of connection. Even a distant traveler leaves traces that ripple through space, touching worlds in ways imperceptible yet real. You feel a sense of wonder at the interconnectivity of celestial motion, where even the smallest body contributes to the broader dynamics of the system. You notice the poetic quality of these echoes. They are quiet, subtle, and often unnoticed, yet they carry meaning, information, and impact. You sense that the universe communicates not only in loud, dramatic events, but in soft ripples, invisible forces, and the patient accumulation of small effects. The comet's journey becomes a meditation, a study of presence, influence, and attentive awareness. You exhale slowly, imagining yourself moving in harmony with these quiet motions, connected to everything that drifts, radiates, and echoes across space. You reflect on the philosophical lesson embedded in these echoes. Motion and effect are inseparable, yet often subtle. Even a solitary object moving through emptiness leaves traces that connect it to the larger environment. You feel that by observing, listening, and interpreting, you participate in the ongoing story of the cosmos. There is comfort in knowing that every action, no matter how small, matters. Each ripple contributes to the harmony of motion and the unfolding of discovery. And as you drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, sensing the faint signals, the dust, and the light waves radiating outward, you realize that the echoes will continue to travel long after the comet has passed. You feel the gentle connection of cause and effect stretching across space, a web of influence that is silent yet present. Exhaling slowly, you sense that the next chapter will reveal the comet's secret trajectory, the unique path shaped by countless subtle forces, each gently guiding it through the vast, empty, and patient universe. You drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, tracing its movement through the void. Its path is not straight, not entirely predictable, yet it carries a rhythm, a sense of order shaped by subtle forces. You feel that every curve, every minute shift is meaningful, a reflection of the delicate balance of nature. The comet's trajectory is a story written in space, unfolding silently, its narrative visible only to those patient enough to follow. You notice how invisible nudges shape the comet's motion. Gravitational influences from distant planets, the sun, and even passing stars create tiny deviations. Outgassing produces slight propulsion, altering speed and direction. Radiation pressure pushes faintly on irregular surfaces. Each factor is small, almost imperceptible on its own, yet combined, they guide the comet along a path that is unique and complex. You sense that this is the subtle art of navigation, where unseen hands sculpt motion in quiet, precise ways. You reflect on the nature of space as a medium. Though it appears empty, space is filled with forces, fields, and influences that ripple outward endlessly. You imagine the comet moving through a vast, invisible web, each filament of gravity, energy, or light leaving traces in its wake. These influences interact, sometimes reinforcing, sometimes opposing each other, producing a trajectory that is neither rigid nor chaotic, but a soft interplay of subtle guidance and gentle constraint. You notice the cumulative power of tiny effects. A small gravitational tug from a passing planet, a momentary jet of outgassing, or a brief alignment with solar radiation may seem insignificant in the moment, yet over days and weeks, the trajectory evolves. You feel the lesson of patience and persistence. Small influences, patiently accumulating, shape outcomes in ways that only careful observation can reveal. The comet's path is a testament to the quiet authority of subtle forces acting together over time. You imagine the tools scientists use to track the comet. Telescopes record positions across nights, spectrometers measure composition and velocity, and simulations calculate possible paths under a myriad of influences. You feel the intimate connection between observation and trajectory, a dialogue in which every measurement refines understanding. The comet moves, and the instruments follow, interpreting signals with precision, translating the invisible hand of physics into patterns that can be seen, understood, and anticipated. You consider how rotation affects trajectory. As the comet spins, different surfaces face the sun, altering the pattern and direction of outgassing. Jets flare and subside, subtly adjusting motion. You imagine this as a slow, deliberate conversation between shape, motion, and environment. The comet's form is not passive, it participates, responding to energy and producing effects that ripple through its journey. You feel that even inanimate objects reveal personality through their interactions with the forces surrounding them. You notice that the path is unique. No other object has traveled exactly this way, and no future path will be identical. It is shaped by a combination of initial conditions, the structure of space, and the cumulative influence of countless small forces. You sense the singular beauty of this individuality, a quiet reminder that every journey, no matter how constrained by law or environment, possesses uniqueness and grace. The universe allows for variation, subtlety, and diversity in motion. You reflect on the perception of trajectory as a narrative. Each bend, each minor deviation is like a sentence in a story, telling of forces both seen and unseen. You imagine reading this tale, not in words, but in motion, speed, and orientation. The comet's journey becomes a meditation on cause and effect, on action and response, on the quiet poetry of physical law shaping a solitary traveler in the vast expanse. You notice the balance between predictability and flexibility. The laws of motion provide structure, while subtle variations introduce nuance. You imagine a tightrope walker, guided by rules yet responding continuously to shifting winds and minor disturbances. The comet moves similarly, its path shaped by predictable laws, yet subtly adjusted by tiny nudges that produce a trajectory simultaneously precise and dynamic. You feel that understanding this balance is a lesson in attention, patience, and appreciation for subtlety. You consider the comet's path as a reflection of time. Its journey is measured not only in distance, but in the sequence of influences acting upon it. Each adjustment, however slight, takes time to manifest fully. You sense that the trajectory is a visual chronicle of forces interacting across days, months, and years, a record of the quiet and persistent dance of motion and energy. You feel yourself entering this rhythm, breathing with the cadence of gradual, cumulative change. You notice how anticipation plays a role in observation. Scientists forecast future positions, accounting for subtle effects and potential variations. Predictions are never absolute. Small deviations can accumulate, producing changes unforeseen in initial calculations. You imagine the mental patience required to track such motion, observing, modeling, adjusting, and predicting over and over. You feel a quiet harmony in this process, a soft reflection of the comet's own persistence through space. You reflect on the intimacy of tracking such a path. Following 3I/ATLAS feels like listening to a whisper carried across vast distance. Each nuance in motion is a clue, a message left by forces invisible to the eye but perceptible to patient attention. You sense that understanding trajectory requires a soft, meditative focus, an openness to subtle influence, and a willingness to notice the smallest changes. The journey of the comet becomes a mirror of thoughtful, careful observation. You imagine tracing the path over weeks, months, and beyond. Each day of observation adds a new layer, refining predictions, revealing hidden influences, and clarifying the comet's response to forces. You feel a gentle rhythm: observe, measure, calculate, predict, and then observe again. The trajectory unfolds like a slowly written poem, where the next line is informed by the previous, shaped by subtle interactions and revealing a beauty born of patience and continuity. You consider how small forces act in concert. Radiation, outgassing, gravity and rotation interact, sometimes reinforcing, sometimes opposing. Their interplay creates complexity from simplicity, patterns from interactions, and unique trajectories from universal law. You feel that this is the poetry of motion, emerging from subtle interaction, quiet harmonies formed by invisible guidance, and the universe revealing itself through attentive observation of small but consequential effects. And as you drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, watching its unique trajectory weave through the void, you feel the quiet majesty of subtlety. Each bend and shift is a reminder that motion is more than distance traveled. It is a story, a sequence of small influences, a meditation written in space itself. Exhaling slowly, you sense that the next chapter will reveal how the comet's speed becomes a teacher, a subtle guide showing the value of patience, persistence, and the soft accumulation of force over time. You drift with 3/ATLAS, noticing how its velocity subtly changes over time. At first, you almost miss it. A gentle increase, barely perceptible, like a soft breath expanding ever so slightly. Yet when observed over hours, days, and weeks, the effect grows, a quiet reminder that motion accumulates meaningfully even when incremental. You sense that speed is more than numbers or vectors. It is a story, a narrative written in the interplay of forces, history, and environment. You reflect on how small forces, persistent and patient, shape outcomes. Each puff of outgassing, each gravitational tug, each nudge from radiation pressure is tiny in isolation. Yet together, these subtle influences accelerate the comet in ways that reveal the hidden intricacies of the universe. You notice that the cosmos rarely announces its lessons loudly. Instead, it teaches through gentle accumulation, inviting careful attention and patient observation. You imagine following the comet's journey from afar. Instruments track minute changes, measuring velocity, acceleration, and trajectory. Every fraction of speed, every slight variation, contributes to a picture more complete than any single observation could reveal. You sense that understanding is cumulative like the comet itself, built through patient watching, through attentive care, through noticing the imperceptible. The comet becomes a teacher, and you a student of subtlety, learning to value the quiet rhythm of change. You notice the relationship between acceleration and time. The comet's increase in speed is not sudden, dramatic, or forceful. It is gradual, unfolding over millions of kilometers, a soft, continuous process that requires patience to perceive. You feel the lesson in this. Meaningful change often grows slowly, yet persistently, like a river carving its path through rock or a tree stretching skyward over decades. The universe demonstrates that enduring effects rarely come instantly, but accumulate with care. You consider how motion interacts with environment. As 3/ATLAS passes near planets, sunlight, and the solar wind, its speed adjusts in response to forces invisible to the eye. You imagine these as gentle lessons in adaptation. The comet responds to circumstance, yet continues its unique path. You feel the universality of this principle. Persistence combined with responsiveness shapes outcomes, whether in motion through space or in life on Earth. You notice the subtle beauty in observing these changes. Acceleration is not always obvious. but when it is measured, when it is carefully perceived, it becomes an intimate conversation between observer and object. You sense that the universe invites this dialogue. Motion, force, and time communicate softly, revealing patterns only to those willing to watch with patience. The comet whispers through speed, a quiet teacher guiding attention to the details that truly matter. You reflect on how even tiny nudges compound. A single burst of gas might seem insignificant, yet repeated over days or weeks, it accelerates the comet in measurable ways. You imagine the cumulative effect as a gentle tide, each push adding to the whole. You feel the meditation in this process. Change is not always immediate, but persistent attention and repeated effort produce results that echo through time and space. You notice that acceleration tells a story about cause and effect. Each increase in speed is a record of prior conditions, surface features, solar illumination, gravitational influences, and rotational dynamics. You imagine reading this narrative like a chronicle, tracing subtle interactions that accumulate into measurable motion. The comet becomes a living textbook of physics, each shift a quiet paragraph, each trajectory a chapter in the story of influence and outcome. You consider the lesson of timing. Acceleration depends not only on force, but on when it is applied. Outgassing at one point may push the comet slightly forward. At another, it may nudge it in a different direction. You feel that the universe teaches subtlety in timing, that the sequence of actions matters as much as their magnitude. This is a quiet meditation on patience. Understanding when and how change occurs is as important as the change itself. You notice the interplay of observation and understanding. By watching the comet carefully, scientists discover not only the increase in speed but the reasons behind it. You imagine the quiet satisfaction in tracing a hidden cause, connecting subtle effects to their origins. You feel that knowledge grows in layers, like the accumulation of momentum itself, revealing patterns through careful, attentive attention rather than sudden revelation. The comet becomes a model for mindful observation and reflective comprehension. You reflect on the emotional rhythm of following acceleration. There is anticipation, curiosity, and quiet satisfaction in observing subtle changes that would otherwise escape notice. You feel a sense of intimacy with the cosmos, an understanding that even the smallest forces contribute meaningfully to motion, trajectory, and outcome. This creates a soft meditation, a rhythm of awareness that lulls the mind into gentle observation, patience, and reflection. You notice that the comet's speed is both a teacher and a metaphor. It reminds you that influence is often invisible, that persistence matters, and that even tiny actions accumulate into meaningful results. You imagine the comet moving through space as a living lesson in subtlety, timing, and patient attention. Its acceleration is gentle, persistent, and cumulative, a quiet echo of the broader principles guiding motion, influence, and change throughout the universe. You consider how these lessons translate beyond the comet. Just as subtle forces gradually accelerate 3I/ATLAS, small repeated actions in life produce meaningful outcomes. You feel a meditation in this parallel. Patience, attentiveness, and consistency shape motion, understanding, and progress, whether through the cosmos or within your own experience. You sense the quiet reassurance in this. Growth is cumulative and influence is never lost. You imagine watching the comet over months, tracing its velocity as it responds to countless imperceptible forces. You feel a deepening appreciation for subtlety, timing, and the patient accumulation of effect. Every measurement, every observation becomes a meditation on persistence, on the interconnectedness of forces, and on the delicate precision of natural law. The comet whispers, teaching that careful attention reveals patterns invisible to those who rush, and that small nudges create lasting impact. And as you drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, sensing each increase in speed, you feel the quiet wisdom of acceleration. It is not forceful or abrupt, it is persistent, cumulative, and patient. You exhale slowly, imagining yourself moving with the comet, learning the rhythm of gentle influence, and preparing to witness the quiet companionship of the universe. You sense that the next chapter will reveal the cosmos itself, watching the stars, planets, and space surrounding the comet, observing, silent yet profoundly present, sharing in the gentle meditation of motion. You drift with 3i/ATLAS, noticing how the comet's motion is observed in countless ways, even if silently. Light reflects off its surface, traveling across vast distances to meet telescopes on Earth. Instruments detect its speed, trajectory, and plumes of gas and dust. You feel the quiet presence of observation. The comet moves, and yet is witnessed by the universe itself, an interaction between traveller and watcher, motion and attention, silence and understanding. You imagine stars scattered across the sky, distant and luminous, yet subtly connected. Each photon they emit crosses space, some reaching the comet, warming its icy surface, influencing sublimation and outgassing. You sense that these stars, though immovable from your perspective, participate in the comet's journey. Their light is gentle guidance, a cosmic gaze that touches the comet without force or pressure, quietly participating in the story of motion, change, and influence. You notice planets in distant orbits, their gravity subtly shaping trajectories. Some are near enough to provide measurable influence, others too far to affect more than the faintest tug. You imagine them watching, as though their mass itself provides awareness through gravitational interaction. You feel the universe as a network of observers, each body contributing to the story by its presence, its field, its silent ability to shape motion. You reflect on the instruments on Earth, capturing echoes of the comet's journey. Radio waves, photons, and dust impacts are interpreted with patience and precision. You imagine scientists piecing together the comet's story from these faint signals, following patterns, predicting motion, and understanding subtle forces. There is a rhythm here, a dialogue between distant object and attentive minds, as if the universe has its own way of sharing knowledge through silent observation and careful measurement. You consider the quiet audience of the cosmos itself. Beyond planets and stars, cosmic dust, magnetic fields, and solar winds interact with the comet. Each influence is an act of presence, a form of attention, subtle and unassertive, yet meaningful over time. You feel that the universe watches not with eyes, but with gentle forces that shape, guide, and respond to motion. The act of watching becomes an invisible companionship, a reminder that motion is never entirely solitary. You notice how light carries information across vast distances. Every reflection, refraction, and scattering of photons communicates details about position, composition, and movement. You imagine the comet bathed in sunlight, each photon a gentle note in a silent symphony of observation. You sense that in this there is a form of universal awareness. To exist and move is to be observed, recorded, and connected, even across millions or billions of kilometers. You reflect on the sense of companionship this observation creates. Though 3i/ATLAS moves alone, its journey is accompanied by stars, planets, and distant observers. You feel a subtle comfort in this realization. The universe is attentive, not in a conscious sense, but in a natural, structured, and precise way that mirrors understanding. The comet is not solitary. It moves through a web of influence, watched and guided silently by the cosmos itself. You imagine the cumulative effect of observation. Data collected from Earth, combined with insights from theory, modeling, and prediction, creates a picture of the comet's journeys that is both detailed and profound. You sense a dialogue between the comet and its observers. The comet moves, the universe listens, and understanding emerges. Observation becomes a form of presence, a soft connection bridging vast distances and long durations. You notice the emotional resonance of being part of this cosmic watching. There is calm wonder and reassurance in knowing that nothing moves entirely unseen. Even in solitude, there is attention, structure, and care. The universe, in its vastness, participates gently in every motion, offering companionship through the silent interaction of forces, photons, and gravity. You feel a meditation arising. Presence is not only physical but relational, a connection formed by being observed and by observing in turn. You reflect on the layered perspectives of observation. From Earth, humans watch through instruments. From space, the comet experiences the influence of light, gravity, and magnetic fields. Across the cosmos, countless systems intersect, each watching and responding in its own way. You imagine this as a vast interwoven network of awareness, subtle and gentle, where each element contributes to understanding, motion, and the quiet unfolding of events. You notice that attention itself can be a force. While the comet responds to measurable physical influences, the act of observation changes how humans understand, interpret, and interact with it. You feel that awareness carries power not in force but in perception, understanding, and connection. The comet's journey is enriched, extended, and appreciated through observation, reminding you that presence and attention, even in quiet and gentle forms, matter deeply. You imagine the silence of space as a form of listening. Every photon, particle, and gravitational effect is a message received and integrated into the motion of objects. The comet moves. The universe responds both directly and indirectly. You sense that even apparent emptiness is full of attentive interaction, subtle effects, and quiet communication. There is a calm rhythm in this, a meditation on observation, interaction, and the gentle presence of everything in motion. You reflect on the intimacy of shared observation. Though separated by vast distances, the comet, the stars, the planets, and human observers participate in a continuous act of witnessing. You feel a soft reassurance in this interconnectedness. To exist in the universe is to be acknowledged, even if silently, by forces, observers, and instruments that interact in precise, subtle, and meaningful ways. You consider the poetry of cosmic attention. The universe does not impose itself on the comet, yet its presence is undeniable, woven into the comet's trajectory and behavior. You imagine 3I/ATLAS moving through space with the quiet companionship of countless watchers, a silent audience that observes, influences, and participates without fanfare. There is beauty in this. Motion and observation, influence and response all intertwined in a gentle dance. You notice the meditative lesson in this awareness. Presence, attention, and observation create connection. Even across unimaginable distances, every motion is acknowledged, every force recorded, every trajectory traced. You sense a gentle reassurance. No action is unnoticed, no effect is without context, and even in solitude, companionship exists in the quiet, structured attention of the universe itself. And as you drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, feeling the quiet gaze of the cosmos, you sense the comfort of shared awareness. Stars, planets, and instruments form a silent network, attentive and persistent, observing motion, recording echoes, and offering companionship without words. Exhaling slowly, you prepare to follow the comet further into the next chapter, where time itself will unfold around it, stretching, bending, and flowing gently, shaping the rhythm of motion and perception in ways you're only beginning to understand. You drift with 3I/ATLAS, noticing that motion is inseparable from time. Each meter the comet travels is both a distance and a moment, a point in space and a tick in the unfolding story of the universe. You feel the gentle rhythm of these moments, stretched and folded by gravity, motion, and the path through space. Time is not constant here. It bends, slows, and accelerates, weaving itself into the comet's journey with a quiet elegance. You notice how light carries time along with it. Photons leave the comet, traveling across millions of kilometers, arriving at instruments long after the comet has moved past. You imagine these signals as letters sent from one instant to another, bridging past and present. Observers receive them, decoding the journey, and in doing so participate in the gentle unfolding of temporal perception. Time and motion are entwined, a subtle dialogue between event and observation. You reflect on how gravity stretches time. Massive bodies bend space-time, subtly altering the speed at which moments pass. The comet, moving near the sun or past distant planets, experiences time differently from a stationary observer. You imagine this as a soft, invisible hand, molding the flow of seconds, elongating or compressing them like taffy. You feel a quiet meditation in this, and as time is fluid, intimately linked to motion, force, and distance. You sense the subjective nature of temporal experience. From your perspective, seconds pass steadily as you follow the comet, yet for the comet, moments unfold under the influence of forces you can measure but not feel. Each acceleration, each gravitational interaction subtly adjusts the pace of its own experience of time. You feel that understanding motion requires understanding time, not as a single rigid measure, but as a flexible, dynamic companion to movement. You imagine tracing the comet's path over hours and days, observing how each change in velocity affects the rhythm of its journey. Acceleration is not merely a change in speed, it is a gentle reshaping of temporal flow, an intimate dialogue between momentum and duration. You sense that time, like motion, is cumulative. Tiny adjustments, repeated over vast distances, accumulate into perceptible patterns that reveal the subtle architecture of the cosmos. You notice how observation itself folds time. By measuring the comet's position at intervals, astronomers reconstruct the flow of its journey. They see the past through present measurements, predicting the future with careful calculation. You feel the poetry of this. Observation stretches and folds time, connecting distant moments, revealing the continuity of motion across what seems like infinite emptiness. The comet becomes a bridge between instants, a meditation on the fluidity of time. You consider the impact of relativity. As 3r/ATLAS moves at high speed, its time relative to distant observers is slightly altered. You imagine seconds stretching and compressing like ripples on a quiet pond, each affected by the motion and mass surrounding it. You feel the calm mystery in this subtle distortion. Even in a universe governed by precise laws, experience and measurement are softened, flexible, and nuanced. Time is not harsh or rigid here. It is gentle, bending, and attentive to motion. You notice how light years affect perception. The photons leaving the comet now will take years to reach distant observers, carrying the story of its past. You imagine the comet as a messenger, its movements recorded in light, traveling across vast distances, connecting the past, present, and future. You feel the quiet wonder in this. Time is not a single thread, but a tapestry interwoven with space, motion, and observation, linking every instant into a coherent, meditative whole. You reflect on the slow unfolding of events. Even the smallest forces, outgassing, radiation pressure, or gravitational nudges, require time to influence the comet's trajectory. You imagine these influences as patient teachers, guiding motion with a soft, cumulative hand. Time becomes a companion in this process, stretching moments long enough for subtle effects to reveal themselves. You feel the gentle reassurance that nothing is truly lost or unnoticed in the measured rhythm of the universe. You sense the meditative quality of observing time's flow. Each moment is distinct yet connected, like beads on a string stretching under gravitational weight and contracting in a relative isolation. You notice that following the comet is not simply watching motion, it is witnessing the passage of time itself, the bending, stretching, and folding of seconds across light years and planetary influence. There is a calm intimacy here. Time is present, attentive, and reflective. You imagine the emotional resonance of this perception. Watching the comet, you feel the slow passage of cosmic moments, the soft rhythm of motion and light. There is a comfort in understanding that time unfolds in harmony with motion, that patience allows subtleties to emerge, and that every second, no matter how small, carries significance. You sense that this awareness is a meditation, a gentle drift into comprehension and quiet wonder. You notice how temporal perspective shifts with distance. Events that seem simultaneous from one viewpoint unfold in sequence from another. You imagine following the comet from different vantage points, from Earth, from the outer planets, from space probes. Each perspective reveals variations in timing, a subtle reminder that time is experienced and measured in relation to motion and gravity. You feel the quiet fascination of this, a meditation on relativity that soothes rather than puzzles. You reflect on how acceleration shapes temporal experience. The comet's gentle increase in speed is more than a change in motion. It is a slow, almost imperceptible reshaping of time along its path. You imagine each fraction of acceleration stretching moments, subtly altering the rhythm of its journey. Time and speed are intertwined, inseparable companions in the dance of motion across the vast emptiness of space. You sense the calm beauty in this, a soft meditation on causality, motion, and duration. You consider how these lessons might echo beyond the comet. Just as 3I/TLAS moves through space and time, every motion in the universe carries implications for temporal flow. You feel a connection between yourself and this gentle rhythm, a reminder that observing, moving, and understanding are forms of participation in the unfolding story of time. Patience, attentiveness, and presence become measures not only of perception, but of gentle alignment with the universe itself. And as you drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, feeling seconds stretch and fold influenced by light, gravity, and motion, you sense the quiet power of time. Moments are not lost, they accumulate, fold, and reveal their secrets slowly. Exhaling softly, you prepare to follow the comet into its final chapter, where it disappears into the infinite night, its journey leaving traces, whispers, and quiet lessons for all who watch and drift alongside in wonder. You drift alongside 3I/ATLAS, feeling the slow cadence of its motion as it moves farther from the sun, slipping past planets and celestial landmarks. Its trajectory curves subtly, guided by gravity, shaped by a gentle outgassing, and influenced by radiation pressure. You notice how the comet, once closer and more visible, now becomes a faint point of light, a solitary traveller retreating into the expanse of space. There is a quiet intimacy in watching something move into the unknown, a reminder of the vastness surrounding all motion. You reflect on the distance the comet has travelled. Millions of kilometres lie behind it, yet millions more stretch ahead, vast, empty, and serene. You feel a meditation in this journey. Every moment of observation, every trace of motion, is a reminder that distance is relative and that the cosmos unfolds at its own pace. You sense the quiet majesty of space, a vast stage on which the comet performs a solitary ballet. Guided by invisible laws and gentle forces, you notice the traces left in its wake, tiny particles of dust, delicate plumes of gas, and faint reflections of sunlight all mark the comet's passage. Instruments on Earth record these traces, translating them into knowledge, data, and understanding. You feel the quiet reassurance that nothing is truly lost. Even as the comet disappears into the infinite, it leaves subtle imprints that continue to inform, to inspire, and to connect. Its journey is both departure and presence, absence and influence. You imagine the comet moving faster now, slipping into the outer reaches of the solar system. Acceleration, once subtle and slow, now carries it into distant territory, where observation becomes more challenging. You sense the gentle thrill of this progression, a reminder that motion is both a process and an unfolding story. Time stretches differently here, and space expands into quiet infinity. Yet the comet continues, guided by the precise, invisible hand of natural law. You consider the role of human observation. Though the comet drifts beyond the reach of simple telescopes, its journey is carefully documented, modelled, and understood through calculations, simulations, and extrapolations. You feel a connection across space and time. Even from afar, the act of observing creates a bond, a shared presence between traveller and watcher. The universe is vast, yet through careful attention, distance becomes less isolating, and solitude is softened by understanding. You notice the emotional resonance of witnessing a journey without end. There is calm, wonder, and a gentle melancholy in observing motion stretching toward infinity. The comet, so small against the backdrop of stars, becomes a meditation on persistence, isolation, and continuity. You feel yourself moving with it, attuned to the rhythm of acceleration, trajectory, and light, carried into contemplation by the slow, deliberate passage through the cosmos. You reflect on the cycles of observation and understanding. Each measurement, each photon detected, contributes to a map of the comet's path. Even as it speeds into the void, its motion informs your understanding of gravity, motion, and subtle forces. You sense that knowledge is not about capturing everything at once, but about tracing patterns, observing effects, and allowing understanding to unfold slowly. The universe whispers its lessons softly, and the comet carries them outward in motion and light. You imagine the comet entering interstellar space, leaving the solar system behind. No longer bound by the sun's gravity, it becomes a wanderer among stars, a traveller between systems. You sense the freedom and solitude of this new phase, a gentle liberation that comes after a long journey, of subtle nudges, acceleration, and observation. You feel the quiet poetry in this departure. Even in isolation, motion is meaningful, and every path has significance. You notice how the universe seems to respond. Though space is vast and empty, forces remain. Distant stars, interstellar dust, and magnetic fields interact subtly with the comet's motion. You feel a soft companionship here as well, a reminder that even in apparent emptiness, interactions continue. Every movement, however small, leaves ripples, hints, and traces. Presence is not only physical, it is relational, spread across space and time, communicated through motion, light, and attention. You reflect on the ephemeral and lasting nature of influence. The comet may disappear from view, yet it leaves behind dust trails, recorded light, and an understanding of motion, acceleration, and cosmic forces. You feel a meditation in this duality. Departure does not erase impact, and absence does not remove presence. The universe, patient and attentive, preserves traces, allowing discovery to continue long after the immediate event passes. You sense the quiet magnitude of cosmic scale. Distances stretch across billions of kilometers, time stretches across millennia, and the comet moves within this vastness with precision and grace. You notice your own smallness, yet also your connection. By observing, understanding, and contemplating, you participate in the narrative. You feel the gentle intimacy of this relationship between observer and observed, motion and attention, time and comprehension. You notice the rhythm of reflection. The comet's journey offers a gentle mirror for thought. Persistence, accumulation of small effects, patient observation, and the quiet unfolding of events. You feel the soft reassurance that understanding grows gradually, that influence matters, and that even distant journeys leave traces and lessons for those attentive enough to notice. The universe teaches in whispers, through motion, light, and subtle guidance. You imagine the comet moving past unseen stars, into the darkness between systems. Its journey is beyond immediate perception, yet every movement continues to unfold in space-time, leaving subtle signs for future observers. You sense the meditation in this. Motion persists even when unnoticed. Knowledge accumulates even in absence, and discovery continues quietly, softly, and inevitably. The comet carries its story outward, a gentle testament to patience, motion, and persistence. You reflect on the completion of a long journey. 3r/TLAS, once observed in the inner solar system, now drifts into the infinite night, carrying lessons about acceleration, observation, subtle forces, and the passage of time. You feel the gentle closure of this story, the soft reassurance that knowledge, reflection, and attention are never wasted, and that motion, even into the unknown, is a form of continued presence. And as you drift with the comet, watching it recede into the vast darkness, you feel a deep sense of calm. The universe hums softly around you, a quiet accompaniment to the comet's flight. Stars, dust, and distant forces participate silently, and the journey of 3r/TLAS becomes a meditation on persistence, observation, and the endless unfolding of space. Exhaling slowly, you feel the gentle peace of discovery, knowing that even as the comet disappears from view, its story lingers in light, motion, and the attentive heart.